Meeting of the English Language Arts Standards Recommendation Committee to order. Vice Chair Hilliard, please call the roll to determine a quorum. The appropriate responses here are present or nothing.
All right. Miss Baird is not present at the moment. Miss Dockery is present, but for the sake of her safety, I will mark her present. Mr. Hilliard is present. Miss Now is not currently present. Miss Singletary?
Present.
Dr. Stout?
Present.
Miss Winters is not present currently. And Chair Carnegie?
Present.
Chair Carnegie, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hilliard. I move that the recording serves as minutes for today. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. This will be a voice vote. All in favor of using the recording as our minutes signify by saying aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
Thank you. Members and presenters, please raise your hand or say Chair Carnegie, or do as we've done all to this point to get our attention so we can call on you. Members and presenters, please turn off your microphone unless you're speaking. Remind others to turn their microphone on if you can't hear them. For the benefit of all Tennesseans, please avoid the overuse of jargon and acronyms, and we have plenty of that in our business. We'll need now to proceed with the next item on the agenda, and Coach Hill, Brianna, geez. What do you have for us, Brianna?
Couple notes. First, the statement of necessity, if that's okay to read, and then second,
Please
just a
do.
couple housekeeping items.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Carnegie. The Tennessee State Board of Education English Language Arts, ELA, Standards Recommendation Committee, SRC, called an electronic meeting at 3:30 Central Time today, October 21st, 2025. This meeting is called to continue proposing revisions to the ELA standards. Due to the time-sensitive nature of the items on the committee's agenda and that committee members reside across the state, it was determined that a physical quorum of members could not be assembled in Nashville for the purposes of this meeting. As such, this meeting should be conducted electronically. Notice of the meeting was posted on the state board's website along with the agenda and instructions for accessing the meeting. Okay, in terms of your housekeeping items, we talked about attendance. Couple updates. You all had some questions for me. I'm happy to answer. One, I confirmed with the Tennessee Department of Education IT team, Microsoft Copilot is allowed in the event that you're using Microsoft Copilot specifically. Of course, it's a committee decision whether you want to use it, but you are allowed to use it. And that's one. Two, you had a question about credit hours and that table that we were discussing for the electives. I did confirm with folks in the academics division at the Department of Education that credit hours are a local decision. So we will need to remove the credit hour numbers. That's just the name of our game. Sometimes if we don't look at a document for a decade, it becomes out of date. I'm sure school-based documents sometimes have a tendency to do that too. Of sort of combining all of these for us to get up to speed.
Can I stop you just for a second?
Mm-hmm.
I know what we tried to do was we tried to put in language that would enable that decision to be made. Is that where our status is then with that? So we have sufficient language in there to enable the awarding additional credits.
Great question. So what I've done is I've gone in and proposed some language of just what we need to remove, and I would love your feedback on it. So essentially what I heard from the department is that the number of credit hours, that's where the sort of hinge point is. So we might want to remove those. And then of course, as the ELA experts, you could provide guidance to districts, like you've mentioned about, like, if you want to teach Norse mythology and you want to teach Japanese mythology, great. Like that sort of guidance is definitely on par. It's the sticky part is where we get into the numbers,
Right.
since that's currently a LEA decision and a school decision.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to get a little clarification there.
No, that's super helpful. And these are a week old, so I'm sure I'm jumping back into things as well. So yes, I've proposed track changes. When the time comes to talk about it, I'd love your feedback and pushes there. And I did check science and social studies, and their electives do not have credit hours. So for example, social studies offers African American history, they have their standards, but they don't have any like credit hour guidance there. Okay. In terms of what's on our to-do list, in any order that y'all see fit, glossary, references, just making sure those are squared away, and the appendix, which remember the appendix is just sort of adding comments for your leadership or for the Department of Education to sort of clean those up. For your glossary, I will put this in the chat, but if you're building, I know we're building a couple of new words out, if helpful, the department has a glossary that you're welcome to reference. It is broken down by the current standard, so if you're having trouble finding something, please tell me and I'm happy to look it up.
While you're taking a breath, I wanted
Go ahead.
to ask in terms of references. As I looked through that, I wasn't sure which item the references were drawn from, and I don't know which ones to throw away, because if you threw away, those words that we are not going to include in the glossary, what effect does that have on references?
Tammy, I'd love your thoughts if you're able, or if you've stepped away, that's totally fine. My understanding is that the references were mostly in regards to the introductions, like some of those in-text citations. I believe y'all talked about like Scarborough's reading rope and some of the, what was the other one called that we debated last time? I think that's a lot of the driving force of the references, but Tammy, what am I forgetting?
I think that's the majority of it. Maybe some of the actual terminology we were afraid new first year teachers didn't understand. But I think that's the majority is to the knowledge we expect them to bring, the Scarborough's rope, what that actually entails.
Okay, thank you.
Good questions. And then finally, your parking garage. Let's see, as always, if we don't finish today, let's spend the last 10 minutes rescheduling our next meeting, or scheduling, I should say, our next meeting. Trying to think if there's anything I forgot. I think that's everything. Members, any questions?
Miss Now has been the keeper of the keys to the parking garage, but we probably ought to wait until she gets on board till we enter the parking garage. What do you think? Yes.
That's worthwhile.
Okay.
And I think, we're not heading there directly this moment anyway. So
Okay.
to me at least, it seems like the parking garage should be the final thing we do, since that is kind of the keeper of all the unanswered questions.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we're all ready to roll. Brianne, if you could make that readable for us, that would be helpful. And we're going to start with the appendix. Coach Hilliard?
Okay. So to my understanding, we're not making anything in the appendix. We don't have to make like large scale adjustments here. We're just kind of, are there things that we would like to see added to the appendix that are not currently there? Are there things we see in the appendix currently that we don't think should be there? I think that's kind of, we're looking in broad strokes here. I figure we can just kind of go appendix item by appendix item and just kind of think if that's something that we think should remain. Appendix A is the text complexity framework. Some revisions have been made by Dr. Stout to the language there. We have this this figure here for how to estimate a text complexity for a reader, and then some credit for where we adapted that from. We have quantitative ways of doing that, qualitative ways of doing that. Another graphic detailing qualitative analysis of literary texts. We have that continues onto a next page. And we have reader and task considerations to consider when electing a text. So just a series of materials offered to teachers about selecting the appropriate text for appropriate levels.
I think this is even more important than it was when it was first written, because I believe now we're talking about a responsibility for reading through all the high school teachers. I'm not sure when that legislation was put into effect, and perhaps somebody from the department could comment on that. But I think for them to understand the complexity of the text that they are given and the reading level of those texts is very important. So I say we keep all that stuff on Tennessee text complexity.
I would agree. I think it's useful to have there.
Any disagreement there? Okay, so be it.
This is a question for Ms. Summers really quickly. I noticed that for the tables and figures, we currently just have table x.x or figure question mark dot question mark. Is that all right for us to leave it as such, or do we need to codify exactly what table and figure each is?
Great question. Totally fine to leave as is, because we'll number those at the very, very end. I always find if I like to do them and I get excited, but perhaps waiting is gives y'all the most flexibility, and the department once they ultimately implement.
Sounds good. Thank
Okay.
you.
So let it be written, let it be said.
Okay. So are we good then on Appendix A? Does anyone have comments? I know that's a lot of material, so I know it's not really possible to have read all of that at that point, but I know Dr. Stout has read through it because she's offered feedback. I've taken a glance through it as well.
As I have, and I think if we're ready to go, let's go. Let's don't belabor it.
Okay. Appendix B then is the language and conventions progression chart, essentially identifying at what grade levels and through which standards various parts of speech or grammatical concepts are taught. This is certainly out of date currently. It is well out of date. So we should definitely leave a comment asking for it to be updated. I believe that's permissible for us to do, correct? Where we can just simply say, hey, can this be updated with the standards that we've made?
Yes, that's exactly correct, and sort of why I'm very grateful that the department has offered to help.
Yes.
This would be
Thank
pretty nuanced work for us right now.
Okay,
Yes.
and Brittany, I would assume that you consider this information valuable to have?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so
Uh,
that's what we'd like to do.
Then
Rhea.
I will leave a comment saying such.
Hi, Ms. Baird, how are you?
I'm good. Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. We're just working through the appendix. Your comments on figures have been very helpful.
All right, next.
I'm just about done with my comment.
Don't you wish you could use cursive?
My cursive is not particularly strong.
Well, if you come up under these standards, your cursive will be better because I think we've added it back to the standards.
That's right.
I should go back to elementary school, I guess.
Singletary, would you like an outstanding fifth grader?
How do you feel
When
about
I have my
that?
screen pulled up, yes.
I could be a troublemaker, I don't know. All right, I made the comment now. So I just wrote, this chart is currently out of date as it is not updated for the standards we have drafted. The chart should be updated to account for the new standards. Ms. Summers, does that feel sufficient to you?
That's good with me. Yeah, just if you have any guidance, like if you were to, want something added or something, that now would be the time to tell them and just say, I'd love for you to add X, Y, Z.
The only thing we could do is to reinforce its importance to elementary school teachers in ELA.
Okay. I will add a little something about that.
Patty, while he's doing that, we decided to hit the appendix, the low-hanging fruit first, get rid of this, and then we'll jump into the glossary. And that'll give us enough time to kind of tread water until Miss Now gets here with the keys to the parking lot.
Okay. So are we good on Appendix B then?
Yes.
All right. Appendix C is pretty straightforward. It's just going to be the standards guide, standards guides. I are we going with an apostrophe for standards guides possessive? I know we don't currently. The state of Tennessee has not been using that currently. If you look at the standards guides, it's just standards with no apostrophe guides. I guess to me, I wouldn't see the need for the possessive there. I think it would just be
Well, we'll defer to your experience. I would agree with that.
okay. But otherwise, I don't think there's much for us to add there. The standards guides are the purview of the department, and
Right.
they will be adding that.
And we made comments as we moved along, and I think they've notated those comments, so we'll
Yeah,
be in good shape.
been thoughtful with the wish list. Okay. Appendix D is the implementation resources, so guidance on implementing these standards, about some language about universal design, some language about intervention, some questions for PLCs to guide conversations around the standards. And then we have a diagram about professional learning communities. And so yeah, that's Appendix D. Does anyone have thoughts there?
Well, we made a wholesale change in Tennessee over the last 15 years, and now you don't have to call kids names in order to get them special help. You put them in different levels of intervention. And I don't know if we need to make reference to that in here or not, because it is much more extensive than when this document was originally written, to my understanding. Everybody following that, Brittany?
Yes.
So give us the levels of an intervention, please, for the people that aren't in the classroom.
So your tier one would be your regular ed. And then there's tier two and tier three.
And how do they get to those intervention places?
So they have your universal benchmark screener, whatever that might be. Ours is what we call STAR.
Mhm.
And if they're in the bottom so much percentile, then they have to be in tier three, which is kind of the students that are going to get intervention that could possibly test and receive an IEP. And then your tier two would be they're not as severe as the tier three, but they need just a little extra help.
When and how often do they access that extra help?
The tier two and tier three are supposed to be daily, an extra 40 minutes to 60 minutes a day for.
And they are not extracted from the regular curriculum in order to do that, correct?
Well, they are, but I mean they are pulled from the class, but they're not supposed to miss any core instruction while they're gone.
Okay, all right. So I just wanted to have everybody get an understanding of how well we've built this. I was a director of special ed for a long time, and I said, we're doing this all wrong. We have to, have to call kids names in order to get them some special help. And now they don't have to do that anymore. And the help is available. It's programmed now in terms of teacher schedules, school schedules. So it's out there. And I just wonder if maybe we need to say something. How do we fit into that system how do we uh, allow or encourage the use of that system to make up for any lack of achievement of the standards? What's the name for that system that what do you call that?
We just call it tier.
Okay.
Um,
Brianna, do you have any a name that we can use to refer to?
At the state, it's often called RTI squared or MTSS.
Okay.
Yes, RTI. Yeah, that's what we do say RTI.
RTI, that's what it is. Response to instruction.
Yes, and there's also which this wouldn't be it, but the other part of the RTI is also behavior. They've tied that in recently.
Mm. All right. Well, I just was waxing philosophical here. I don't know if you all need to talk about that in here, or if what it says you think is sufficient.
The language pertains specifically to Tier 1 instruction. If we feel like more language is needed, but it seems to be in this current draft a description of what Tier 1 instruction with these standards should look like.
And I think that it would be an error to not talk about Tier 2 and Tier 3, because we've got to get the kids to keep up. And if we don't get them at Tier 2 and Tier 3, they're going to be failed at third grade, and they're going to have to repeat because they haven't achieved the reading level that is required by law. I pose that as a problem. I do not have a solution in terms of words, but if you think it's worthy to be put in there, then maybe we should say some more.
I don't feel equipped to describe this myself accurately. So I don't know if I could draft something, but I'd be more than happy to leave a comment if you feel that we should leave a comment asking for perhaps the department to draft some language, or if
I agree with that. I think that'd be a great idea. What about you, Brianna? You think they can handle that for us?
Definitely. And there's been a lot of work in the literacy space on
Yeah, if you use the words RTI and including the different levels in that intervention, so we can get kids to be reading at level by the time they get to third grade.
Okay.
Be something where, like, for instance, I'm going to pay attention to what fourth grade standards are and sixth grade standards are, but obviously my focus is going to be on fifth grade. So because I teach tier 1, but your tier 2 and tier 3, they're going to be working in all different grade levels, because if you have a fifth grade student not on level, obviously they're going to have to dip down into the other standards. And so I think that might be why maybe it's not there. And so I agree with Lucas. I don't know how you would say it, but I think that's probably why it just says the tier 1, because at tier 1, you're only really going to be focusing on your grade levels standards, whereas a tier 2 and tier 3 interventionist is going to be kind of all over the place, depending on the level of the students that he or she's working with.
And yet all of those students are going to be held to the same standard.
Yes.
Even those who are in special education.
Correct.
So IDEA says. Okay. All right, so you made a note then, right?
Yeah, I just wrote, we would like to see some additional language about RTI and the various tiers of intervention here.
Thank you.
This is very minor, but down below in the questions for professional learning communities in number 10, it says, do our students have a process for getting out of the learning pit? I have not heard that terminology before. I don't know if that's something that's familiar to other folks, but I'm not exactly sure if I know what the learning pit is.
It's a colloquialism, I bet.
Quick Google makes it sound like productive struggle, like zone of proximal development, maybe. I'm just spitballing.
Okay.
It might be that the RTI, that might be one way to get out of the learning pit, not to fall too far behind. I don't know what they're talking about the learning pit either.
I think we should throw it out.
Yeah, when I read that initially, what I took it to mean was if there are on tier 1, do they have a way to move up to tier 2 or tier 3? I might be going in the ladder backwards.
Right.
But are they advancing to the next level? And if they're struggling with something, are they actually improving, or do they just continue to face that same struggle in that area?
Yeah, I just did some Googling as well, and I found a graphic. I cannot speak to the veracity of this, but it's just meant to be a graphic description of what the learning pit is, and it's a person standing atop or above a valley, and they say challenge accepted, and then they're sliding down the hill into the pit, and it says this is harder than I thought. At the bottom of the pit, it says I don't get it, and then it's wait a second, aha, and they're emerging out of the pit. So I guess it's the sense that, in the midst of learning something, there is always the period in which it befuddles you and kind of emerging from that and not just giving up, emerging out of the difficulty one's experiencing. But from what I can tell, the learning pit is not terminology that is used frequently. So I think we should probably articulate that in a slightly different way.
Yes. Advancing to performance on standard.
Yeah, I think what it's reflecting is like emerging out of learning difficulties. So like when it's not clicking, like do they have a process for getting out of that kind of stuck state? But I don't know how to say that without resorting to the same kind of colloquial language we're trying to avoid here.
I wasn't sure why this was in there anyway. I mean, it's like it was like an advertisement for professional learning communities, which were popular emerging, 15 years ago, but it's secondhand to everybody now. I don't even know that we need it.
It's like,
Mhm.
it's like scaffolding, but everybody, I mean, that's just kind of understood now that you do that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, do we even need these questions in general?
I don't think so.
I guess I just have a hard time envisioning that anybody is going to be consulting this list of questions when planning their PLC.
No.
I just have a hard time envisioning that will be where they go.
I recommend we eliminate that entire section. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
I assume that is a joking second, and we are not instituting an official vote.
No, we are not. Are we okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
All right, then let's eliminate it. It's old hat. We've gone beyond that. We've advanced as an education culture.
I used your exact language, Chair Kanagas. The education culture has advanced such that these ideas are old hat.
Okay, next.
Okay. Then are we going to also delete this professional learning community diagram, I would think?
Sure. Yeah. They already know how to do it. They've been doing it well.
Vice Chair Hilliard, would it be okay if I did some track changes?
Yes, yes.
I think the comment is really helpful. I just want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
they understand y'all's intent. There we go. Fancy.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Appendix E.
Mhm. And context on my end, these are proposed from your predecessors, similar to y'all. given that the department's leading on them, they haven't been drafted. So you're welcome to ask questions, and I'm happy either if Tammy feels comfortable asking them, great, or answering them, great. If not, I'm happy to connect with Leanna and Nicole. But yes, these are things, if you all agree with the proposal or want to make edits to it, this is something that the department would create as a result of this committee. We obviously just didn't want to put the cart before the horse in the event y'all did not agree or wanted to build on it or do something different.
Thank you. Is foundational literacy in there because of some new legislation using those exact words or not?
I can double check with Leanne on the legislation. My overall impression, Tammy, please correct me. My overall impression of the foundational literacy standards, as y'all probably saw, is that they are meaty. They are long. They are not playing around. And so I think they wanted some extra support on sort of interpreting this. I can go back and look at their rationale that they put. Let me see. One here. Oh, okay. So they wanted clarification and deeper understanding of the points made in the introduction. So I guess a lot of this would have to do with like Scarborough's reading rope and stuff like that. So of course, if you all made substantial revisions to the introduction, that could potentially impact this.
I would just say yay, verily yay, and let the department go after this.
Yeah, I think all of these things seem meaningful. If educators have said that these are useful items, this is also not my domain, so I don't want to speak to foundational literacy folks about what they need. So it seems worthwhile to me. And I would say the same for Appendix F, the 6 through 8 roots and affixes progression chart.
And Appendix G, given all the writing exam that the kids have to take, they really need to know what it's all about, what they're going to be graded on. So
yeah, I would agree. And I think if we're going to try to make, it seems our objective was to make the standards document as inclusive as possible, to have kind of a one-stop shop for educators. And I know that I'm frequently having to show writing rubrics to my students. So I think it would be useful to just have it all in one place.
All right. So is that enough comments, Brianna, for them to take off with?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
I think the only remaining question would be, are there any other things that we need to add to the appendix that are not currently there? Anything that
I have none.
added?
Who has some?
Nothing comes to mind for me personally. I just wanted to open that up in case anyone had something.
Miss Dockery's still driving. Okay. Patty, Catherine, anything?
No, I put some comments in there earlier, and I think you guys have reviewed and addressed those, so nothing further from me.
Thank you for all your work ahead of time on that, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing from me.
Great.
Okay. All right. I think we're okay.
And we can also, as some of the other folks join us, we can also just quickly ask them if they see anything that perhaps they might want to add to the appendix, or potentially we could add that to the parking garage, since we're still going to look at that.
Sure.
But if we're good on the appendix for now, I think that moves us to the, I mean, we've got the references, but I don't think we really need to do anything to the references. I don't think we've added any new references.
The only question I had when I posed earlier is, are those references in there for any of the glossary items that have been extracted, have been redlined? And if they are, then those references could be redlined.
Yeah, it does not seem so to me. But also, I have not, I'll be honest here, I have not done the checking, but I don't think we have cited this many sources in our particular document.
No, and I'd hate to have to go through that.
Some of these do not seem to be present, and maybe I'm just missing it. I certainly could be. I have not gone through with a careful approach. Some of these don't seem to be elsewhere. I don't remember some of these names in the document. So I wonder if some of these are vestigial references from from a prior version of the document.
Good question, Vice Chair Hilliard. Again, Tammy's the expert here, but I know she's having to multitask. We did have a point person for the references, so I'll look that person's name up and see if there's, to answer your question, Chair Kernigis, about any glossary references, just to double check. I also believe that they were pretty thorough in terms of like if they took inspiration from things, even if they weren't like directly cited. I think they erred on the side of caution. So that might be some of the extra ones. But
Okay.
I'm open to thoughts from the committee. I just ask that if you pull a word, for the sake of clarity going forward, if you do pull a word from, wherever, maybe put that APA in-text citation next to it so that your successors know where you pulled it from, so that we have a better answer to that question going forward.
It seems to me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, Ms. Summers, as far as I can tell, the definitions that have been provided none of them are cited.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I'm gonna optimistically hope means that they have been generated by prior committee members or other drafters of this particular document. So maybe that is kind of guidance for us. Maybe just to maintain consistency, we should largely draft our own definitions in the glossary just to kind of maintain that consistency. I do feel like it would look a bit odd if we had a glossary that was composed of some cited definitions and others that were not. I mean,
I agree wholeheartedly.
A bit strange.
Vice Chair Hilliard, yes.
That's a good
Let's
point.
proceed. Are we done then with the references so we can proceed to the glossary?
I think, I don't know if this has to happen right now. I'd kind of like to at some point go through the references and just note which ones don't appear currently in the document. I just did a quick search for the first four, and like Kavanaugh here does not appear currently. DeHane 2009 and 2020 do, but not 2013. So it seems like there's a little bit of a mix here, and like Ms. Summers said, some of these likely were inspiration, and they may not have been directly cited. But I would like to at least just guarantee we're not putting references in here that have no bearing on what's in the document. So I think it might be worthwhile to just flag that. I don't think that necessarily has to happen right this minute. It won't take a long time, but it would be a one-person job, and I know we're trying to move onward. So maybe I'll slip it in while we're taking a look at the glossary. But I think it's worthwhile to at least flag that so we can be aware at least of what may be in there, but that is not currently in the body of the writing.
Okay.
But other than that, no, I certainly don't think we've added any new references currently, so I don't think there's anything to be added.
Good.
I would say, sorry, one last thing. It looks, since y'all cut out professional learning committee, this one just jumped out at me because there was a quote. You could delete some in the spirit.
Yeah, delete that one. Absolutely.
I don't know if there were other citations for professional learning community. No, where were those down here?
Oh, in the glossary, you mean?
No, didn't y'all take out PLCs in the appendix? So it's
We
like
did. Yes, we
So-
you
did.
could take out the citations related to it in the spirit of
Okay.
making those match up.
Yep. I follow what you're doing. I agree with it.
Yes.
Might have just been this thing. To 4, yeah. Do 4.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Got it.
He was the guru.
Sorry for the whiplash. Okay, yep, that's him.
Great. Fantastic.
Oh, professional learning committee model. Just gonna delete these. Oh, resolve. Resolve. Oh, it looks like Dr. Jackson Skay was the or Skay Jackson, excuse me, was the lead for the references. So I will reach out to her to one, it sounds like ask the question, were there glossary references to be aware of? And 2, it sounds like your second question was related to, was your intention for the in-text APA citations to match up exactly with the references? And if not, why?
Yes. Okay. So it sounds like we've done the work on the references we can do at the moment. I think
Mm-hmm.
say, which leaves us with the glossary and the parking garage. I don't think there's any point in going to the parking garage quite yet.
Nope.
So I think it is a matter of of getting into the glossary. To me, the easiest thing to do at this exact moment with the glossary is to simply go through the words highlighted in red and just to make a determination if we think those words should be deleted. Those words highlighted in red, if I understand correctly, Ms. Summers, are not included in our standards, but are currently in the glossary.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we're operating from the assumption that this glossary is for the standards. So I think our assumption would be that these words likely would be removed. But it's worth just, I think, taking a look and ensuring that we feel that way before we eliminate words from the glossary. So, Chair, do you think that would be a fair use?
I think that's an excellent idea. I wouldn't, I didn't have that in mind, but I think it's a good thing just so we don't trip over those words and get them out of the way.
Yes, and please check me, members. I flagged this, but for example, I believe form does show up technically in the standards, but the way that I saw that y'all used it was like form a sentence versus like look at a poetry's form.
Mhm.
I am not an ELA expert, so I will be overjoyed if you correct me.
All right.
Okay. So I think this is probably just a go word by word. If someone feels a word needs to be defended, sort of speak. If not, then we'll delete the word. That seems to me the best process if that feels right to other people.
Okay, aesthetic impact out.
Yeah, we were pretty intentional about eliminating that term because we didn't know what it meant. So
Okay.
I think that one's gone. Allegory is a term that's worth knowing, but I think that's more of a standards guide thing if it's not showing up in our language, in the standards.
You talked about extended metaphors, but and that's, I think she's actually redline that one too. Okay, allegory out.
Alphabetic code, we make no reference to that, so I don't think that would need to be there.
Alphabetic code out. I'm going to say out, and if that's the last time anybody could jump in. When I say out, you gotta come in. Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's like the hammer at an auction.
I could see you being an auctioneer, Chair.
Sorry.
That radio voice.
All right, alphabetic writing system, I also think can be deleted.
Alphabetic writing out.
Analogy, if it's not in the standards, I think shouldn't be there. I think that's more of a standards code thing, likely.
Analogy out.
Or standards guide, not code. Animation, if we have addressed that, I think it should be eliminated.
Animation out.
Audio, I think we can remove that.
Audio
Also,
out.
I think people know what audio is as well. Author's choice, a bit surprised that doesn't show up in the standards, but if it doesn't show up, I really am a believer in having the glossary be things that are in the
Author's choice out.
Okay, that moves us down to counter/opposing claim.
Yeah, I had a question on that.
Did we not use, or did we not? Oh, I think what you're indicating here, Ms. Summers, is that we use the phrase opposing claim.
Yes.
Okay.
But I heard Ms. Nell talk about counterclaim, and haven't you talked about counterclaim?
I mean, I use that terminology in my classroom, but if the language we use in the standards is opposing claim, then I think we should
okay.
in the language.
So
we're not proposing to remove this definition. We're just proposing to eliminate the part that says counter and just say opposing claim as the term.
That's going to be the prevailing language now in English language arts rather than counter.
Right.
Okay. Counter out.
Yeah, I do think then we need to move this because it will now be in the O's. So I'm going to take a second to just move that down to the O's.
And I'm checking author's choice. I also feel like y'all talked about it a lot, but wasn't there another way that y'all described it? I don't know. Author's craft, author's. There's some sort of debate I recall y'all having.
Right. I recall that conversation to an extent, but I can't recall exactly what we came to there.
Okay, there are no instances of author's craft with the apostrophe S, and there are no instances of author's choice apostrophe S, and that's on all tabs of your current revisions.
Thank
So that means it wasn't even in your predecessors.
We do have, I just found we do say author's choices, plural.
Oh, interesting. Let's see.
In
I'm not seeing that. Where are you?
it's revised E3, E4, RI, Kid 3. Analyze how an author's choices regarding the introduction and development of ideas.
Okay, so
Mm.
see, this is where the computer is only so smart. Y'all are smarter. This is good. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it probably needs to be in there then. If we have, that's close enough.
One more time. Can you read the standard, Vice Chair Hilliard?
Yes, it
I will check my
is
method.
E3, E4, RI, Kid 3. Analyze how an author's choices regarding the introduction and development of ideas, and it continues from there.
It should pick up the plural because I don't have a space at the end, but that's concerning. Okay.
So let's look at what we have as the definition then. If you could scroll down to that, Brianna.
That is bizarre because I searched the same way you did, and I also did not. It didn't flag for me, so I don't know why.
Okay, that makes me feel better. Yeah, I don't know. Well, let me do author's choices. Find. Okay, it does find author's choices exactly, but I don't have match entire content. That's very strange. Okay, so yeah, you all please jump in and double check me.
That seems to be the only instance of that phrase I can find, but since we do include it, I think we might as well keep it.
Does that language that is describing it in the glossary describe our intention in that standard?
Intentional decisions by an author that may impact meaning, style, development, formatting, conventions, and/or plot progression. I would say so. Authors. I mean, I guess at the sense there, also author's choices is really that's not you being used as an academic term per se. I mean, that's just saying the choices an author makes. So I don't know if this absolutely, I mean, I can't imagine a scenario in which someone doesn't understand what it means when we say an author's choices. I can't, I mean,
Well, I think this elaborates. I would like to keep it in myself.
okay. I have no qualms with that. That's fine with me.
All right, author's choice is
Author's
described.
choice
We'll
in.
say it. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll.
Now, and that, excuse me, there we had some purple language. Did somebody write a new one in there? Or are we even doing that? Author's purpose.
Yeah, I mean, we're adding some new language, but I think that's something we'll get to in a moment.
Okay,
I
thank
think
you. We're doing reds now. Okay.
we have diphthong.
All right, Vice Chair Hilliard, quick note. I must have missed the loop closing on opposing claim.
Yeah, I just moved it. I just moved it down to O.
Oh, thank you. I forgot. I appreciate you.
If that's not specified in the standards, I don't see any need to include that here.
Why isn't it in the standards? Brittany, do you talk diphthongs?
No, that's younger, probably K2.
Okay. Who's out there in K2 land? Tammy? No.
I'm happy to reach out to Leanne and see what she thinks.
It is in one of our standards.
That's what I was just looking, but I can't find it.
It is in 2.fl.d3.
Right. I'm there too. Do you see it in there?
It is
I
under
see it.
substandard D.
Okay, see, this is good. Keep checking me.
So we're going to keep it. Diphthong in.
Diff. Yes. Yeah, I definitely think that's that's definitely worth keeping if it's in the standards, because I personally don't know what that means.
That is as good a description as you could have. If you listen to Reba McEntire, she diphthongs. Ow.
That's my kind of foundational literacy lesson. Orange, I created a new system because we had some weird ones. It was hyphenated, so it appears as if there's 0 instances, but it looks like y'all removed domain-specific vocabulary and opted for, I forget what y'all ended up calling it.
We did language specific to disciplines and subjects, I believe, was the language. Yeah, we were very intentional about removing domain-specific vocabulary, so I definitely think that definition should be removed as well.
Domain specific out.
Okay. We have fallacious meanings, fallacies. I'm going to do just a quick check to make sure that didn't appear, because I don't recall us talking about that, but it's the kind of thing I could see appearing somewhere, but it doesn't seem, it's not showing up for me at all. So, I mean, if it doesn't show up, I think it should be removed.
Fallacious meaning out.
We have form. Defining structural characteristics of work, especially a poem. Yeah, that one definitely seems like one that would be in there, but if it's not, it's not. I'll do just a quick control.
I had the same question myself.
The Google Sheet's kind of glitching out for me, so I apologize. I'm gonna take a second to refresh. It comes up quite a bit in foundational literacy, but that obviously form in the context of foundational literacy is not the same thing. That is like Miss Summers said, that is a different kind of form that we're talking about there, like to form something. So if there are 50 instances of the word form in our standards, but so far I'm on number 35 and I have not left foundational literacy yet.
Yeah. Are there any times y'all talk about, like, I don't know, poetry in a standard that we could check? Just for peace of mind. I can also start at the back.
It would be in the reading standards if it were somewhere.
Oh, we've also got many of them are also in your rationale. Let's see. Oh, you also had word form. Is word form the same as form? I assume not. Right.
It's not the meaning of form that we're using in this definition here.
Okay, cool.
The one problem with doing a Command F search for this is I'm catching lots of information and lots of format.
Yes, I think if you put a space in front of and after, but then you run into other, it helps narrow it down, but it also misses some stuff.
Right. I added a space beforehand, so I got rid of the informations, but the problem with the space after is just in case it was at the end of a sentence.
Exactly, yeah. Technology is always imperfect.
So we don't use it then?
Not as far as I can see yet. I'm gonna do a little more searching. I should be done pretty soon. I'm kind of flummoxed that we haven't used it, but
Yeah.
You said it'd most likely be in reading?
I would certainly think so.
I can see.
But I just went through all of the reading standards and could not find it.
Okay. Yeah, I mostly see it in your rationale.
I'm checking writing right now because I could see a world in which it might come up in writing, but it's not. I'm not seeing anything yet. Yeah, I don't think we use it.
Are you ready to throw in the towel?
I would say so.
All right, form out.
Okay. Okay. We have glide, a type of speech sound that glides immediately into a vowel. If that's not in the foundational literacy standards, I don't think it should be included. And I
Right.
have no recollection of glide.
Neither do I. Glide out.
We have gradual release. We've been pretty intentional about removing references to like scaffolding or gradual release because we think those are more like instructional approaches than pertaining to the specific
I
content
agree.
standard.
Gradual release out.
We have, okay, this one I found kind of interesting, and maybe, Ms. Summers, you can kind of clarify for this. There are 3 different types of irony that are addressed here: dramatic irony, situational irony, and verbal irony. I assume that means that verbal irony was included in our standards, but the other 2 were not.
Yeah, I was confused. Open to thoughts.
Okay. I'm just going to do a quick search and find where we use verbal irony, just to get a sense of in what context, because I can't recall off the top of my head. Seems like it's just in one 8th grade reading standard, but we list it as one of the types of figurative language. So we do use it. So I think it's worth defining. And if we don't include the other 2 types of irony, I think it would likely just be a matter of defining verbal irony and not defining the other 2.
Annie, are you home yet?
I think she said she was taking care of some childcare stuff, but she would jump in as she's able.
Okay.
But maybe she can hear us.
So you say the verbal irony is used at the 8th grade level,
Yes, but dramatic and situational are not.
and you don't use those at the high school level?
I mean, I would certainly say that verbal irony is the most commonly discussed form of irony. But I mean, situational and dramatic irony come up. I teach them, but I also teach them in the context of an AP Lit class.
And they're not in the standards.
And I teach them in freshman and junior and senior English all the time.
I can hear you, by the way. We ended up for that particular standard making it effects on the reader because it was, I think, only explicitly mentioned in the 8th grade standard, and we just made it a little bit more open-ended, and dramatic irony being one possible effect. So I think that's why it's not in the standards anymore.
Yeah, and to me at least, this is my theory of the glossary, and obviously I'm open to other theories of the glossary, but to me, we are including glossary items because they are within our standards, and it is on us if we use a term in the standards to ensure that someone knows what that term means. I don't think that confines someone and forces them not to teach dramatic irony or situational irony, but we don't use that terminology. So I don't think the onus is on us at that point to provide a definition. And also, I mean, these are quite easily obtainable definitions. These are words that can be quite easily found. So my stance would be to include the definition of verbal irony, or keep it, and to remove the definitions of dramatic and situational irony.
I agree. Dramatic and situation out.
I do think if we're going to do that, there's no reason to do irony, comma, verbal anymore. I think we can just do verbal irony, including the V's. Does anyone disagree with me there?
Nope.
Okay, then let me move it down to the V's, which will mean it's now the pretty low down there. All right. Switch around the order as well, so it's not irony, comma, verbal, which I didn't love in the first place. Okay. Then we have literary merit. That is a term that we used to use, but we have moved away from the term literary merit to just refer to text at an appropriate grade level of complexity. So I don't think this term needs to be included.
Okay, I agree. Literary merit.
I have a note for that. So for our reading standard 10, I'd kind of forgotten about this and all the hubbub of that conversation, but Banks had mentioned that he thought we should add that language back into reading standard 10 to make sure that the textbook companies were providing solid writings and not, like he mentioned, like not putting in AI work or something. So I kind of personally felt like if Banks thought it was important, that it might be a good thing to add back into reading standard 10, but I realize that's also kind of a can of worms at this point, potentially. It's not a lot of language to add, but
I'm impressed that you remembered that. I think that what you say has merit for sure, literary merit.
thank you.
I think if we want to change it, we can make that change now. It's all changeable until we say it's not.
Yeah, so I mean, if we want to look at that now, the language we're currently using at the K through 5 level, we just say appropriate. I guess at all levels, we're saying text of appropriate complexity for X grade. So that is the language we've used. I mean, I think if we wanted to include literary merit, we could just simply say texts of appropriate complexity and literary merit for X grade. I think that would be a relatively simple way.
I'm good with that. How about you, Miss Dockery?
Yes, I think I'm good with that. I don't know that I'm attached to this idea or anything or this language, but I think the language was in maybe reading standard 9 initially, and we eliminated it and had talked about putting it in standard 10 and then kind of forgot about it. But it was like literary or historical significance, or maybe literary or historical merit. I don't know if we want to add the historical, if that matters. I don't know that that matters personally. I think maybe literary covers it.
I agree. Brittany, do you have any comment?
I'm good either way.
We could also just say merit instead of saying literary merit. If we just want to say merit, and so that it's inclusive of both literary as well as historical and other forms of merit, we could just say of appropriate complexity and merit.
I think that's fine. That encompasses nonfiction better as well.
Okay. A good compromise.
So is that what we would like to do? So I guess if we go to cell 190 or row 190 of the reading standards, that's where I'm at currently. So it would now read in column P, where I'm at currently. It would read a variety of literary genres of appropriate complexity and merit for kindergarten. And then I would just make that corresponding edit to each of the remaining standards.
Is that clear? Our use of merit there? As you read through it, I just was taken back.
Just for some context in terms of the textbook commission, I know that they have an 80% quality threshold that they evaluate textbooks and instructional materials through prior to sending it to us at the State Board of Education. And I believe that they developed that rubric in partnership with the Department of Education. So I'm happy to look into that if it's helpful, but it's one point of consideration that they have.
I think appropriate complexity essentially covers the ground that we're trying to cover here with merit. But those are not the same thing. I mean, when we talk about merit for literature, we're talking about something slightly different from its complexity. I mean, merit is bestowed upon something, whereas complexity is an intrinsic quality. but I mean that almost seems to be wading into like a canon debate if we're including literary merit, and I don't know if that's one we want to wade into.
It just it just stuck out there to me, so I kind of agree with you.
I don't feel particularly strongly either way. I just want to know so that we can make that edit or not consistently across the
Well,
standards.
from what Brianna said, it sounds like they're doing their job already, making sure that we get good quality material, and we don't have to use that word literary merit in order to get that done.
Yeah, I'm happy to look at how they define it. I mean, they are looking for 100, they're also looking for 100% standards alignment. So whatever you put in these standards, they will prioritize. Let me see if I can find a rubric by chance. But I agree with Ms. Dockery. If Mr. Lyons flagged it, Banks, their team is part of the folks that put together the rubric, so he would have more insight into the process than I would.
Are you still searching, Brianna?
Yes, I don't know that they publish these, to be perfectly honest. I mean, of course, anyone can request them. If I can't find it in just a hot second, I will message Banks to see if he has one handy.
All right, so do you want to just put this in the parking lot and stew on it and come back to it later? Or do you want to just say, put it in or take it out?
I mean it's relatively easy to add. I mean it's not going to cause us a lot of hand wringing. So if we do feel like it's adding something, then I mean that can be done. I I just don't know. It's not something that I feel particularly needs to be there. But I do trust Banks, and I think of Banks as someone who's got thoughtful contributions to make here. So if he feels that that is valuable, then I would defer to him.
If I remember correctly from when I was on the textbook committee, the rubric was developed from the standards so they could put the 80% quality text in there because we had literary merit, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
Thank you, Tammy. She's done it all, folks.
That's very useful context.
Yeah. And if I think I was hearing maybe there was conversation about contacting banks, but I mean I could potentially be overemphasizing what he said, but I would be interested maybe for it's been several meetings ago for some further explanation from Banks if he's available at some point.
Is Banks available tonight?
He is available by phone. I'm gonna call him right now.
Okay, let's go on and just put this one on hold for a second till we get more clarification. And then you jump back in, Brianna. Let's move back down through the glossary, please.
I guess my conversation is I don't know if we're going to include the word merit. Do we want to make the definition merit versus literary merit? Because if we're not going to include the word literary there, then we don't need to have the definition be literary merit.
Well-
And secondly, do we even feel as though we need to define the word merit?
I heard Tammy say specifically literary merit, so that must be some magic word.
Okay. I prefer the word merit to literary merit just because it gets complicated when we're talking about informational text versus literature. When we're using the word literary merit, it kind of implies, since we're intentional about driving that distinction. But the more common term is literary merit. I will grant that, but I think it might be worth at least thinking about that if we're going to include that language in the RI
It
standards as well.
defines sophisticated creativity, artistic craft, stylistic choices, rich, diverse concepts. I mean, it pretty much gives the definition of literary merit there.
So are we just then gonna maintain this definition? And if so, then we're going to need to just, if we do include that language, we'll need to make sure we include the phrase literary merit.
Yes.
Okay. I guess we'll just kind of leave that one as is for now then.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, don't take it out yet.
Okay. Main idea is something, and I saw Miss Summers' comments. We were pretty intentional about switching out main idea for central idea in pretty much every place, but Miss Summers flagged a few places where we maintain the language main idea. Unless we were intentional about distinguishing between those, I think we should probably stick to central idea. My understanding was we were using those terms interchangeably, but obviously if we are using them interchangeably, we should stick to one version of that. I don't know, obviously we don't have the whole crew here, but am I right in saying that we were we intended main idea and central idea to mean the same thing, and we just elected to use the phrase main idea, or central idea, sorry?
Annie, what do you remember?
That's what I remember. I think we were trying to be intentional about using central idea because that's what we're using primarily.
Yeah, there were just, and also I think a lot of this is that the only instances of main idea are in the speaking and listening standards, and so we likely made that decision afterward, as we progressed, and so therefore we didn't make those edits to the speaking and listening standards.
Do we need to go back and do that?
I will go back and do that if you trust me to do it. I mean, if we want to go back and do it right now, we can go back and do it right now. Or I can. Miss Summers has already flagged it for me. I just didn't want to go ahead and make the edits quite yet until we had deliberated on it.
I trust you. Does everybody else trust Vice Chair Hilliard to do that?
Very
Yes.
much so.
Okay, there you go.
In the previous standards, it was main idea up until a certain grade, and then it changed over. So it would probably be better if it was mainstreamed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that was a significant debate from your predecessors. I think my recollection of their conversation was they were on the fence about it. One example I found, just if it's helpful, is 3RIKID2, but I do think you're right, Vice Chair Hilliard. Far across the board, it was mostly speaking and listening.
Okay, so we're good with that way to proceed? If you would just modify that when you get a moment, Vice Chair Hilliard.
Okay, so then that would mean that we would just eliminate the definition of main idea, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Next we have media techniques. I don't recall any reference to media techniques, so I think we can delete that.
Media techniques out.
Extended metaphor. If we don't make reference to that, I don't see that it would be necessary to define extended metaphor.
Extended metaphor out.
Mode of writing. Ms. Summers has left a comment saying may be implied within the standards, defer to the committee. Does that mean we did not use this phrase mode of writing, Ms. Summers?
Yes, I don't recall finding an instance of mode of writing, but looking at it, obviously y'all do talk about, there's the whole set of narrative standards, there's the whole set of argumentative standards, so that's why in orange.
I think we deferred to the language genre most of the time instead of mode. I think that was where we went most of the time. And I knew, and we do have a definition for genre.
Okay. Mode of writing out.
Okay. Nasal blends. If that's not there, I certainly don't think it needs to be in the standard. Or the
Sounds infectious.
If you thought that sounded infectious, we've got nasal phoneme. I think that one can go as well.
Nasal blends and phonemes out.
Yeah, and please correct me, Miss Singletary. I couldn't find them, but they sound important.
I've never heard such.
Okay, we've got onset rhyme. I think that one can pretty safely be eliminated.
Onset rhyme out.
We have orthography. If that one didn't even appear in the linguistics course, I think we can probably delete it here.
Orthography out.
We have overarching theme. We did not use any language about overarching theme. We mentioned like the multiplicity of themes, but I don't think we've been intentional about discussing overarching theme. So I think the definition for theme would suffice.
Overarching theme out.
We have parse tree of sentences. I think that one can go. Do you concur, Chair?
Yes, that's when we talked about diagramming, right? Yeah. And
Yes.
we decided we're not doing that anymore because that's ancient work and it didn't prove to be of any value. Parse tree of sentences out.
All right. We have purpose of reading. I think we should definitely eliminate this definition, especially since it kind of conflates with the other meaning of purpose, which we are intentionally using in the standards. So I would certainly recommend deleting that.
Purpose of reading out.
Reading fluency. Did we really not say that?
I thought I heard fluency in the K2.
Please double check. I
Yes.
also have one for onset, item for onset RAM for consideration when you have a second.
Tammy, you got anything K2 on reading fluency?
I don't do elementary, sorry.
Oh, okay,
I
that's
mean,
all right.
I know, like, I mean, that was in one of the lessons that I taught today, and we do a reading fluency passage every day. But I don't know whether it's really in the standard.
Right.
We just do it for comprehension.
I did a quick check, and we don't use the word reading fluency at any point, but we do use the phrase writing fluency in the standards.
Mm.
So we don't have reading fluency, but we do have writing fluency. I don't see that we have a definition for writing fluency. So perhaps we just define fluency.
And then you can use it across the board.
Yeah.
Reading and writing.
So I think just defining
but-
the word fluency.
Well, but in reading, it's to support comprehension.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, I will
kids
say you're
kids get stuck in phonetic analysis and lose the comprehension because of the disfluency. Why didn't we talk about this?
so you said something similar in under reading standards under point 10. Your cornerstone is read and comprehend complex literary and informational text, blah 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 blah, independently and proficiently. And again, this is a limitation of technology to, I don't know if reading proficiency and reading fluency are the exact same thing, but you do, speak to the concept generally.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think reading fluency is different. Take it from from a person that had a reading fluency problem when they went through school. And I had to go through Evelyn Woodhead's reading before I got into college because I had reading fluency problem. That's just personal experience.
Totally.
Didn't anybody consider this to be important? Well, we never talked about it. There wasn't a standard in there before, so we didn't necessarily have something to react to.
What did we say? Fluency. Okay, so it is. Oh, there's 23 instances of the word fluency. It's all over the foundational literacy intro. Oh. See, and this is what also it gets complicated. Okay. Foundational literacy.
Oh,
apparently.
right there. Yeah.
But see,
That's
because
it.
you're not reading fluency together if you control F. This is one of the limitations of technology. So now let me look.
Okay. Now, do we have fluency down in the
Let me check what you all did to 5. Hold on.
in the glossary?
Isn't that what we're just debating? Reading fluency, right?
Well,
I mean-
it was reading fluency and we redlined it, but now you're exposing that we have talked about fluency specifically in 5FLF.5.
Yeah.
And
Now, that we've altered the language some because that's the currently existing standard. We do use the word fluency with some regularity. We just don't use it in the phrase reading fluency. So my recommendation would just be to define the word fluency.
yes, in the glossary.
So I think we would eliminate this particular definition and then just add a new definition for the word fluency.
I
But perhaps
agree.
it's because we use the phrase both, we use fluency to refer to reading fluency, but we also use the word writing fluency or the phrase writing fluency. So I think it would just be worthwhile to just define what it means to be fluent in something. That way we can just kind of have something that operates for both. If other folks agree there. So are we good with doing that?
Yeah, I think we need to talk about fluency. I don't know if we need to address reading fluency and writing fluency separately.
We
We're talking about different things, are we not?
Yeah, my only misgiving with including the phrase reading fluency is that it's simply not in our standards. I mean, we have reference to something that we refer to fluency in the foundational literacy standards, and so we can infer that that's reading fluency, but I mean, we never call it reading fluency. So that I think that limits the effect of the glossary, because I think someone might be looking at that and going, wait, is this the same kind of fluency or is it a different kind of fluency? I think we want to make sure the verbiage is identical.
So I think I've seen something like this before in glossaries, because we do have writing fluency mentioned. And then we know that in the context of what we just looked at, it's talking about reading fluency rather than writing fluency. So I'm wondering, isn't there something where you can do fluency, comma, reading, fluency, comma, writing? Or maybe it's in parentheses, fluency, in parentheses, reading.
I would like to go in that direction, Annie.
Okay. Are we certain that someone's going to be able to figure out that we're talking about reading fluency when we're talking about in the foundational literacy standards? I'm just not sure if that one-to-one connection is going to be obvious to folks.
It pretty well states it in the standard there, or
I personally think they'd be able to figure it out, especially if there's some indication saying a difference between the reading fluency and the writing fluency.
Okay. Then how do we want to format that again?
fluency, and you can put an A and a B if you want to, A reading and a B writing, and use the definition that you've got there for reading fluency as the definition for A reading, and then let's come up with something for writing. Annie, do you have anything to say about writing fluency?
No, other than, if it's in the standards, and we probably need to have an entry for it. I guess formatting wise, I would have to find an example. I think we should probably figure out what is the correct way to do it. I know I've seen that sort of thing before.
If someone has it available, it might also be worth a quick scan of the standards guides to see if the department has defined writing fluency. I don't know if they have or not, but I think that's a word that they might have defined.
Where I'm assuming you'd be in the writing strand.
Yeah, it would be.
And it would be, is there a particular grade that you think it would come up by chance?
I mean, I can see what we have it in currently, but I don't know. That might be entirely different from where it was in the previous standards.
Okay, this is their definition of writing fluency. It was But this is all the way down to kindergarten. So
Okay.
I'm curious if they change their definition. Writing fluency, the ability to write accurately, quickly, and with expression. Let me just go up to 12th grade for fun. Oh, let me just do fluency.
That's what we ask them to do when they're being tested
Mhm.
for writing.
Isn't, oh, I see. Maybe I have to do it. No? The embedded PDFs don't like me very much. Hmm. Oh, here we go. Hmm. Okay, it seems to be an earlier grades definition. Oh, here we go. Okay, so they have the definition K5 and it's the same.
Okay. I see no reason not to use that definition if other folks agree.
I agree.
Okay. I am copying it over right now.
The simplest solution.
And then we'll just maintain the definition of reading.
Yeah,
for
that's
this.
right there.
Okay. Okay. Are we good to move on?
Yes, we are. I think we did a good job with that. And I think the teachers will appreciate that.
We might have come to a different decision since I was focused on trying to find an example. I was struggling to find a glossary with an entry like that. Honestly, was having difficulty figuring what even to type in. But just looking at an index, if that's maybe how it'd be formatted. So example, I have one that says teachers, and teachers is all the way to the left in the index, and then it's got it's like sub entries just indented underneath that. I don't know if that's a correct format. I'm not a big formatting person, so I'm not sure, but I was just trying to find something to go off of.
Yeah, I mean, my instinct, and I'm totally open to other people's ideas here, would just be to treat them as two separate things and just have reading fluency in the R's and writing fluency in the W's, since we're using these terms pretty differently. But I'm also open to other formats.
I'm okay with that.
I just
Sounds
think
good
that,
to me and less complex. So
yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Decision made.
We next up on, if we're going to keep going through this glossary, next up we have rebuttal. I think we went with refute instead of rebut as our terminology there, so I think it makes sense to
Rebuttal out.
recall, and this forces us to recall the lengthy recall versus recount versus retell conversations. We ended up going with the retell, so I think recount and recall can both get the axe.
Recall, recount out.
All right, we have rhetorical analysis. As an AP Lang teacher, it pains me a little bit to remove that.
I know.
But if it's not in the state standards, then it shouldn't be here. So I think remove it.
Why isn't it in the state standards?
I mean, that's simply not one of the types of writing that we ask students to employ. I mean, the three primary modes of writing that we ask students to complete, one of them is not a rhetorical analysis. In the way that it, like for an AP Lang class, one of the three modes of writing is what we would call a rhetorical analysis, but I just don't know if that's really something that we've.
It's not for all children. It's for some, but not for all.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that is, I mean, of my opinion, if purely speaking outside of my role in this committee, I think it's worth students knowing, but I think we're far too late in this process to be making those kinds of scale of change.
Unless you object to us passing on this, we will move on.
I agree.
Rhetorical analysis out.
Okay. Scaffolding. We've been intentional about removing language like that, so I think scaffolding should go.
Scaffolding out.
We have simple sentence. I'm gonna do a quick search just because that's one of the ones that I kind of expected to see in the standards.
As
But-
opposed to complex and compound?
Yes. But I'll just do a quick little search to make sure it doesn't appear in any. I could also see a situation where we said like simple and compound sentences, and therefore simple and sentence got separated. I'm not saying that did happen. I just could imagine that happening. So I'm just doing a quick little scan just to be sure. We do say simple, comma, compound, comma, and complex sentences. So we do actually do that. So I think we should maintain the definition of simple sentence.
I agree. Keep it in. Simple sentence in.
All right. Let me actually verify that's actually in the revised standard. Yeah, that is in the revised standard. Okay. Next we have sound symbol correspondence. I would say that we probably delete that.
Sound symbol correspondence out.
I don't recall us making any reference to stream of consciousness as a form of writing, so I think that can likely go as well.
Stream of consciousness out.
Technical meanings. We have been very intentional about removing references to technical language, so I think that one can go.
Can you scroll, Brittany? Brianna? Technical meanings of language out.
Text complexity. I mean, we've certainly used other ways of referencing what we mean by text complexity, but I don't think we've used that phrase text complexity. So I think if the onus on this glossary is to define words in the standards, I don't see the need to define a word or a phrase that is not in the standards. So
Have we used complex text?
I mean, that's going back to that same reading standard 10. I mean, the language as it currently stands is, where is it? Text of appropriate complexity for X grade. And then we had talked about adding texts of appropriate complexity and literary merit. But we have not, so we've used like texts of appropriate complexity, but we have not said.
I'd leave it in. I think that's close enough. Because that's defining what we're talking about there.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
That's my take. Anybody else? Okay, leave it in. Text complexity in.
All right. I don't see any need to keep text complexity banned because we actually separated some of those bands into just saying instead of 6 through 8 for instance for the middle grade standards, we just said grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. So we kind of broke apart some of those bands. So I would remove that definition.
I would too. Sounds like a great name for a garage band.
All right. Got some weird page breaks here, so just bear with me as I kind of get rid of those weird breaks. I guess I don't think we have any more words in red.
Well, yay.
Those are the red words.
We've done the red words.
If that's helpful.
Thank you, Brianna, for that walkthrough that you did for us. You helped us move quickly through this.
Of course, and appreciate extra eyes. Speaking of extra eyes, so while I did not find, I had a sneaking suspicion. Some of these foundational literacy ones makes me nervous because I have no earthly idea what they're referring to. I did find a reference to, was it onset rhyme? Again, it's one of those ones where we were talking about it, but it wasn't written exactly like that. Let's see where it was. I also have an update from Banks on the he does recommend literary merit, both in the standard and the glossary is the too long didn't read version of it. I'm happy to read his whole statement. Let's start there because I've got that handy. Hold on. Okay, and I quote, I think it would be important to define literary merit. Most of this would involve meeting quantitative and qualitative metrics as outlined in the appendix. But I'm also thinking about the importance of creating a definition wherein AI-produced text would be avoided. This would be particularly important with material text selection, including TCAP.
Okay. So let's tackle these one at a time. What about onset rhyme? Do we need to revisit that?
Onset rhyme, I think I found an instance of it. It'll just take me a second. I was looking at something else, so I have to go back. Nope, 1 second. Basically, it was control F. I think if I just look up onset, it came up actually. It's in the
Yeah, I see
term
it.
are like 300 pages long. Hold on. You see it?
I do. It says, well, I lost it. Blend and segment onsets and rhymes of single syllable spoken words. So we don't say onset rhymes, we say onsets and rhymes. So they seem to be different terms based
Okay.
off of our language there, but I have no idea what an onset or a rhyme is.
Okay. I can flag these for why don't I just flag the
Well, I mean,
glossary?
if you look at the definition, it basically defines it for you. The onset coming before the vowel and the rhyme, including the vowel and what follows. So an onset rhyme is the natural division of a syllable into two parts, the onset being anything that comes before the vowel in the syllable, and then the rhyme being the vowel and anything that follows it. So, I mean, yeah, that makes
I'm
sense.
okay with leaving it in if it's in the standards, if it's close enough.
I mean, I think we would just simply change instead of onset hyphen rhyme, I think it would need to read onset and rhyme.
I agree. Yeah.
Just to match what we've done in the standards.
Okay, good.
Now, I mean, this is a bit unusual for a glossary, but I think since these kind of go hand in hand, I think it's justifiable to keep these terms together in one glossary entry. I know that's a bit unusual to do, but I think given that they kind of work in tandem, perhaps that would make some sense.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll just call Leanne in just a moment and double check some of these foundational literacy standards. Make sure I'm not misunderstanding ones that I propose we take out.
Okay.
But y'all feel free to discuss literary merit. Of course, you can, implement Banks's recommendation, ignore it, or something in between.
No, I don't think we want to ignore it. Where did we put literary merit now?
I mean, to me, if you look on the spreadsheet, it would be starting with row 190 of the reading tab. So reading down to 190, and if we're looking at P, every single standard has some variation of the phrase, read a variety of literary genres of appropriate complexity and, well, it previously read a variety of literary genres of appropriate complexity and for X grade. I think what we'd be adding is appropriate complexity and literary merit for X grade. So we'd just be adding the phrase and literary merit after complexity.
I agree. I think the advice that we got is solid, and if it's going to affect how the textbooks are prepared, I really didn't understand it until he talked about trying to avoid AI produced materials, and I think this is very important.
Okay.
Hi, Ms. Dockery.
Say it again.
I say hello, Ms. Dockery. We haven't seen your face for a
Hi.
while.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's
I should
okay.
be back for good.
Good.
That is, I believe, like 20 standards that I'll need to add that to, so it is going to take me just a minute to do that, and I don't really want to leave it to do later because I worry
No,
about.
you take your time, and what we'll do is we'll start going back through the glossary. And if I remember, it looked like we left off uh, around in the C's, but maybe some of you remember.
This is something I think could be really useful for our time is just if we took, I don't know how long exactly, 20 minutes, half an hour, for everyone who's here to just kind of scour the standards and see if there are any turns of phrase, any terms that we use that are not currently in the glossary that perhaps could be worthwhile to add to the glossary, just as a check. I know we were intentional about putting things in the parking garage, but I worried perhaps we just let something slip and there might be a term that needs to be added. Because once we know what words we're going to add, we've already thought about what words we're going to delete. Once we define what words we want to add, then the exact what exactly will appear in the glossary was set at that point. So I think it could be really useful, and obviously tell me if you disagree, but I think it could be really useful to just have maybe 20 minutes of just people scouring through the standards and seeing if there's anything that is not currently in the glossary that might be worth adding. But obviously I defer to what you think, Chair Kniggis.
Well, I would like to add on to that. I would think that what we should do is we'll take a total of 40 minutes, and we'll do 20 minutes of scouring and then 20 minutes of eating. And we'll be back in here at 5:50. Does that suit everybody? So you get a chance to eat. If you want to eat and scour, or eat and just relax, or scour first and then eat, it's up to you. But we'll reconvene at 5:50.
Okay.
And we'll be doing some work while we're doing it. It's to be a working lunch, or no, a working supper.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm clear on this, so we'll be operating at 5:50 under the assumption that the words that are currently in the glossary are the words that should appear in the glossary.
That's correct. And if anybody has any new words to add, we will all jump in. No, you'll jump in singularly, and we'll all discuss that.
Fantastic. Sounds good to me.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you at 5:50, everyone. Hey, darling. How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm scheduling meetings.
Okay, I just called for a supper break. Did you want to just like do an instant replay on the pizza?
Honey, whatever you want. I'm stuffed. I can't eat another thing. There's
Okay.
spaghetti. There's one bowl of the chicken chili.
I'll just have a piece of pizza. Thanks. All right, bye-bye.
Okay. Vice Chair Hilliard, are we on break? Oh, I have you muted.
Yes, yes, we are. I'm just doing some work right now.
No, I appreciate you. Okay, I do have some updates from Leanne. Yes, she agreed with our edit on onset rhyme, and
Okay.
she had 2 other thoughts on some words.
Okay.
Her recommendation, again, you're welcome to keep with it or not. She said alphabetic code is implied, and that it could be helpful to maintain it if y'all are interested.
Okay.
And she said the reason why we couldn't find sound to something is they called it something different in the standards. It's not called sound symbol. She recommended sound print. Would be more recognizable to K2 educators.
Okay. Could you possibly flag that for us again when we come back together as a crew?
Happy to sound print. Okay, are y'all good on the banks thing? Or was there anything else you needed there?
I think we're good there. I think we've made the decision to do what he recommended.
Okay, cool. Do you need anything from me?
No, I'm good. Just making a few line edits since I'm currently just going through and adding that literary merit language into the standards.
Okay, I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, Vice Chair Hilliard, I think I missed this when I was on the phone with Leanne, but what time are we coming back at? One more time? 50 what?
Sorry, I was muted. 5:50.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, it is now 5:50, folks, and I declare this meeting back in session. Would love to see some cameras of all those folks that are still out there. If you're still eating, that's okay. Just come on and join us. And we don't have Miss Now with us yet. There's Brianna.
Hey, Chair Kernigis, Miss Now is joining at 7. How are we doing quorum-wise? 1, 2,
Oh, okay.
5.
All
We're
right.
okay on quorum. Not great, but
And we've lost, I wanted to tell Carolyn goodbye and thank her for all her good work with us, but who knows, maybe we'll have another session, but I sure doubt it. But I
there
know
you go.
we're all wanting to get this done, so let's not waste any more time. Brittany, you're out there. Patty, you're out there.
Just to clarify, if we have 3 members with cameras on and we're not hearing anything from the other 2 members, is that still a quorum just because they're on the call? I mean, I don't want to imply that Brittany and Patty aren't here, but I'm just a little nervous that perhaps they're still up on WebEx, but maybe not currently in the room.
Good thought. Brittany, are you there? Or Miss Singletary, are you there? I can text her. She might not be back from her dinner break. Let's see.
Patty, are you there? Oh, there's Rosemary.
That helps.
Yeah, hi, Rosemary.
I've had a day. Excuse me. Hello, everybody.
Well, we're so glad that you could join us and enrich your day even more. We had some special ed stuff while you were gone, but I think we handled it pretty well.
Yeah.
We're
Chair
talking
Kernigis,
talking
torch.
about RTI. Go ahead, Brianna. What do you find out?
Oh no, I just said Chair Kernigis was carrying the torch for special education.
Yes, I was.
Could you fill me in a little bit?
Well, we were talking about RTI where they're talking about interventions, and it was in the appendix when they were speaking of interventions. And the way that this appendix was written, I don't know, was probably in its first iteration because since then we have RTI. We didn't have that when this was written, and there's a lot more that's going on in RTI to help kids to learn how to read. And since then, we had legislation passed that if they're not reading at the 3rd grade level, they're not passing. So, I mean, it's pretty high stakes, and we need to intervene. That's for darn sure. So we asked that the department revise that. And Annie, you might not have been, maybe you were listening, I don't know. You could have been occupied in a traffic jam and didn't get what we were talking about, but it was basically about RTI and what we can do through RTI to help promote accomplishment of the standards by all.
Okay, so nothing was added to RTI. You had an idea what
No.
RTI was?
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
go
know in
ahead.
Shelby County Schools, we utilize iReady as our intervention program. And actually do 4 different tests per year, one in the fall, well, actually 3, I'm sorry. One in the fall, which is a benchmark test for reading and math. We do another one in December to see if there's any growth, and that determines what level they are functioning on. So I can use, for example, for the grades that I have, if I have a 5th grader that's age appropriate and they're functioning on a first, some of them are functioning on kindergarten, 1st grade level, then we have to meet them where they are and build them up to the actual age appropriate level. So that's why we use the iReady program here in Memphis Shelby County Schools.
And do you have an RTI period for your school?
Yes, sir.
How long is that
Actually,
period, Rosemary?
Yes, the intervention for the SPED teachers as well as the gen ed teachers are from 2 until 2:45, 45-minute block, 5 days a week, 2 days online with the program, iReady Reading, iReady Math, and then 3 Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays face-to-face where you work with them in small groups or one-on-one, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays is computer generated iReady while they do their lessons online.
And do you see primarily tier 3?
Actually, I have 6. I have a total of 22 students.
No, do you see tier 3 students on the RTI?
Yes, my caseload right now is 23 students.
Okay.
I have 6, 7, 8th graders. I have 11 7th graders. I have 5 6th graders and 5 8th graders.
My goodness.
But the group that my principal assigned me were the students that were very below tier 3, and I have 6 students.
Below tier 3, goodness.
So
You have
I
a
have 6th grade,
challenge.
7th grade, 8th grade. I have a little bit of all. Out of those 6 students, I have all 3 grade levels, and I'm pretty much by myself.
Mhm.
Yes.
Bless you.
So I have
Thank
to
you for
prepare. I have to
taking the
prepare
time to
those
be with
lessons.
us.
Yes, sir.
My goodness.
Yeah. We
So Brittany or Patty, are you with us? We want to make sure we have a quorum here. There she is. Okay, we have a quorum, and Annie's just not on camera, but there she is. All right, we're ready to rock and roll now. Who found some things that need to be in the glossary that aren't in the glossary? Words that appear in the standards that we need to provide definitions for our users, the teachers.
Chair Kanagas, I do have a update from Leanne with the questions. Okay, so she did agree with the edit that we move from, what was it? The thing about rhymes, onset rhymes.
Okay.
She agreed with our edit there and she said it made sense. She did have a recommendation of, and this is totally up for the committee to discuss and decide. Pulling it up. She felt as I guess alphabetic code is implied in the standard, and so while it might not come up in a keyword search, she felt like it could be helpful for foundational literacy educators. I don't know if Ms. Winters has any thoughts. We had some K-5 questions come up while you were elsewhere. And then the other piece she recommended was sound. She said the reason why sound symbol might not have come up is because they use different language. She offered sound to print correspondence could come up more frequently.
Is
But
is
I
both
sound
of
agree
those
with
are
that.
committee's discretion.
is sound to print in the standards?
My understanding is it is not directly in a control F search, but the concept is there. In I think it's FLPA 2.
What does it say in that FLPA 2?
Let's see. Sound print, and Ms. Winters, you jump in at any point because I am certainly not a foundational literacy expert. There's a couple pieces. It seems like there's with prompting and support, reverse sounds within a word, with prompting and support, delete final sounds, initial sounds, solidify previously learned phonemic awareness, stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't see anything though that requires that definition. I mean, why would we put sound symbol correspondence if it doesn't appear in there? I understand what she's saying. That's an important concept, but it's not a word that's used that we have to define.
That's totally up to the committee.
That's my stance. Anybody else have anything to say about that?
My instinct would be to agree. I think I'm someone who would generally prefer a smaller glossary. I think if we want anyone to use this glossary, it needs to be pretty concise, and just hit things that are in the standards themselves. I mean, obviously there are concepts that could be included here. I mean, we deleted allegory. I think allegory is an important concept for many students to learn, but it's not in the standards. So I think this is kind of analogous to that, at least in my mind. But I am not a foundational literacy person, so obviously I am going to listen to folks who teach that domain if they disagree with me there.
So where you have sound symbol correspondence, that is crossed out. Is that where we're going with that, to take it out of the glossary?
Yeah, because it doesn't appear in the standards, Rosemary. That's what we're doing right now. That's what all the redlining does. We did all of those, yeah.
Right. Okay. So I do agree with the sound symbol correspondence is not listed at any of the standards that we have reviewed and revised. So I would agree to take that out of the glossary.
Okay, great. It's out. Okay, let's see, where were we? You came in, Brianna, with something. We were just soliciting words that appear in the standards that need further definition that we haven't addressed yet in the glossary.
I just want
Yes,
to intervene really quickly. I believe, and Miss Summers can correct me, there was also the idea of alphabetic code should be reintroduced. It wasn't.
I'm sorry. Yep. Code is a code without the word alphabetic. Code can mean anything. Even if code is used throughout, but I don't know that we use alphabet if the phrase alphabetic code doesn't appear. And if we were to be consistent with our stance on just defining words or phrases that appear, I don't think it needs to be in there.
Yes. So alphabetic code is something that we don't use at this time. And I haven't seen that also in the standards that we have revised for foundational literacy.
Thank you, Rosemary.
So I would take that as well as alphabetic writing systems.
So you could tell the person that gave you the input that we did consider it, but we didn't think it was necessary in our stance, trying to remain consistent with what we've done in the glossary. Just look for readily identifiable words or phrases that appear in the standards.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I did just stumble across something that I think might be noteworthy. If you look at the definition that we deleted for sound symbol correspondence, it says same as phoneme grapheme correspondence, implying that those words are interchangeable. In KFLF4, we actually used the phrase phoneme grapheme correspondences. So I think what we really need to do is not is to just simply add a definition of phoneme grapheme correspondence that uses the definition already used for sound symbol correspondence, except it just is under the name phoneme grapheme correspondence.
I agree. Rosemary, will you agree with that?
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Okay, I will do that now.
They'll put it in. So, Annie, what new words did you come up with that we haven't put in the glossary?
So I have a question about that. So I found quite a few in the elective standards, but I don't know how specific I want to get because it's quite a few, and I accidentally deleted my list, and I was working to refine them. But words like hold on, sorry. We have parodies, and I haven't double checked some of these things yet because anyway, biographical sketch, parody, satire, and then a bunch of words from the etymology course that are very specific to that course. Are we including those sorts of things, or are we kind of leaving electives alone?
My preference is to leave them alone. But parody, satire, and biographical sketch seem to be used more than in the electives. No? Did you turn yourself off, Annie?
Yep, I'm good for that. We do have satire in the glossary still.
Okay, good.
Um,
Is parody in the standards?
not that I can recall other than just in the elective.
Which elective?
I
Creative
think
writing?
It is
that's
in visual literacy.
yeah.
I guess we just need to make a larger decision about is this glossary pertaining to specifically the grade level English standards, or are we going to feel it is the expectation of this glossary to also define words from elective courses? Because I don't think there will likely be much defining happening from elective courses, since those were previously, I believe, separate documents. And this was previously the glossary for specifically for previously just the grade level standards. So
I suggest that we do it just for the grade level standards. Is everybody okay with that? Keeping with the history of this glossary? You okay with that, Rosemary?
Yes. Grade level
Okay.
standards.
Then
Ms. Dockery, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think I think my preference would be to have them, but also just I didn't even really get finished looking at all the standards, and it would be quite a few new words to define. So just I feel like we'd have to have a whole new meeting probably just to work on defining those words.
well,
Um,
we've been very generous with our time and we do some more, but I don't know that it's going to be a very much use to many people. I mean, somebody might pick it up, but nothing like what we need to have for the grade level standards. So
Ms. Summers, can or I just have a question. So when this was presented, my understanding is this will all be combined into one document, correct? The elective standards will be housed within this document as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Everything you've said so far has been accurate. That the glossary was only for the K-12 standards. Previously, the electives were separate. We are combining, and it's certainly at the committee's discretion.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to be in there, I mean, I think it's a decision. If we're going to have it just be a glossary for K through 12 standards, then I think we need to specify that. I think it needs to be specifically named like K-12 standards glossary or something along those lines. If we're going to call it a glossary for the entire document, I do think it would be it would be an expectation. I think that it would include language like parody that Ms. Dockery has flagged.
I agree with what you said. Let's define what kind of a glossary this is. And I like the one that you used.
I mean,
Rosemary?
to be entirely honest, I wouldn't. I don't mean to cut off Miss Winters, but I agree with Miss Dockery in that, like, if we're in an ideal world, I do think it would be best to define some of these terms from the elective courses. I also agree that I think if we do that, almost certainly we'll be pushed to another meeting, which I know is not, it should not be the thing that makes the decision for us, but just logistically, I think that would be the case. But I just wanted to just throw my 2 cents out there.
So you want to look at the glossary, rename it from glossary to standards K-12 glossary, or K-12 standard, standards K-12 glossary, instead of just actually having glossary there, but make it K through 12 standards
Yeah, I guess
glossary.
if I were to rank my options here, I would say include language from the elective courses in the glossary is my first option. Second option would be to, if we can't do that for the sake of time or necessity or whatever, my second option would be to just simply specify that this is a K-12 standards glossary and not a glossary for the elective courses as well. And then my third option would be to leave it as is.
I would go with this. I would go with for me, my choice would be the second choice that you mentioned.
I agree. Dr. Now?
Hello.
Hello, nice to have you.
Thank you.
We're doing
Um,
we're doing a buzz through the glossary to see, actually looking at the standards to see if there's any words that have been not defined in the glossary. And the question was, there are many words that come up in the elective courses, but our discussion now has been whether or not we should just continue to follow the process that they have in the past, which is only define those words that are in the K-12 standards.
I honestly, I see both sides of this, not only for the sake of time, but continuity. However, to me, it makes the most sense at this point in time to just confine it to a standards K through 12 glossary, because we have standards for K through 12 that are tested standards. The electives are not tested standards, and they are open in some form or fashion to interpretation for the instructors teaching them. And so I think by standardizing the language surrounding the elective standards and defining those terms might be somewhat limiting to those teachers who are not tested subjects. So my preference would be to just say it's a standards K through 12 glossary.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment about that? I think we're establishing a consensus here. All right, the consensus is that we ask you to rename this as the K-12 glossary appropriately, and then we move on. Who wants to nominate some words that are in the K-12 standards that need to be in this glossary that aren't there? Patty, do you have any nominations?
I don't think I do. I just think we need to be sure that we've covered the important things. I mean, we could cover words ad nauseam, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, thank you.
Forever and ever and ever. Let's just get the important ones.
Okay. Brittany, do you have any?
I do not.
Okay, 2 down. I know that Lucas, you've been working very hard at this and you've been anxious to talk, but you wanted to give everybody else a chance. Now it's your chance. What words have you found?
So I don't know if I have all the words yet. I'm still kind of in the process. I've kind of focused more on the foundational literacy because some of those words are unknown to me. So I think that's why I'm kind of defaulting there. Like, for instance, I haven't gotten through all of them yet, but just like in the FL F4 standards, we have reference to juncture. Like JUNCTURE. In the context of foundational literacy, I'm not entirely sure what juncture is. Is that in our glossary? I had not had the chance to check.
I didn't see that one. I saw Jandra.
So to me, I think that might be a word worth defining.
How is it used in the standard?
It is read a wide range of grade level text with appropriate prosody, which prosody might be another word worth defining.
Yes.
Specifically phrasing, expression, juncture / pause, intonation to demonstrate understanding.
Okay, I'm good with prosody and juncture. Who wants to put forth some definitions?
I would love. Oh, so prosody actually is already in there. So good news
Okay, good.
there. I unfortunately I don't feel equipped to define juncture.
Nor do I. But I'll bet you Brittany is.
This is kind of out of my, I looked it up because I do not teach phonics or phonetics, but it says that it's the set of features in speech that enable a hearer to detect a word or phrase boundary. So being able to determine the difference, the example here is from I scream from ice cream.
Hmm.
So that seemed like that's more of
Like detecting
a like a
sound
speech, like
differences.
right, sounds like speech, like the speech students that receive those speech therapist services and the related services. So that kind of will go with that particular area. But as far as a teacher implementing that, I haven't seen that, but I have seen it in related services like our speech therapists or even maybe our special ed teachers may utilize that in the earlier grades, like K through third.
Well, you have a good definition there. You want to put that
Yeah.
definition in? It's
Well, this is from, I guess, like dictionary.com. So I guess we can't use that exact one.
And I do think we had conversation about trying to avoid using
Someone else's.
phrasing and instead using our own. Now we may run into our limits of this because it would still be better to reference someone else if we simply can't define it. So, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
okay. Let's establish the need. Is the need there to define this word? If it's in the standards, do you think that there are teachers that need to know what this is?
I agree to leave Protestant because that is used very often. But this word here, I haven't really heard a lot.
And I will say, I mean, I brought it forth as a thing that needed to be defined. It is offered up as an element of prosody. So perhaps just by defining prosody, that
It's
covers
included
our
in there.
bases there.
Close related.
I'm good with that. So it would need to be defined as it's C prosody.
Yes.
Okay, great.
I just always want to err on the side of caution when it comes to the foundational literacy, since that is what I think
Sure.
of all these standards I'm least equipped to offer advice on.
I know,
And I know it's like Protestant is like reading with expression to support meaning. And some of the examples that Ms. Brittany gave, it looks at the phrasing, the emphasis, and the intonation. So that kind of still fall in the same definition as Protestant.
Yeah. Okay, we're good with that then. So on to the next one. I know that right now, while we're talking, Dr. Now is researching because she came in after we were talking about this. But so at any time, Dr. Now, if you find a word, just shout it out and we will work on it and deliberate and see whether or not we should include it in the glossary. But Mr. Hilliard, do you have some more?
I mean, I'm just kind of going through and checking words that I see in there that I think are probably a little hard to know, and just checking. Like I just checked affix, but we already have that, so that's covered. So I'm still kind of in process a little bit, but I have not found anything yet.
Okay.
I have a question. We got rid of fallacious meaning, but we do have fallacious reasoning in there. Should we include fallacious reasoning, or I think I kind of missed I kind of caught the tail end of that conversation and wasn't totally sure of what the reasoning was there.
Our entire reasoning was just that the phrase fallacious meaning or fallacies was not used in the standards. So I do agree that fallacious reasoning should likely be defined.
Is fallacious reasoning used in the standards?
I think Ms. Dockery just said yes. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, it came up. I'll double check myself, but I'm pretty sure it was.
Tell us where it's used and how it's used.
Should be in speaking and listening 9 through 12, as well as ri.cs.6, I believe.
Okay, can you define fallacious reasoning for us, Annie? And not only for us, but for thousands of
Oh.
ELA teachers.
I would also say we had fallacious meaning, so we could probably base our definition off of the definition that was previously already existing for fallacious meaning a little bit. I don't.
All right, let's see how we can craft something.
We do definitely have fallacious reasoning.
Okay. All the more reason to put it in.
I mean, I don't love the language that was used to define fallacious meaning here, but I think we could, if we wished to, we could adopt it and just switch out where it says, it is imperative that students are able to clearly identify fallacious language and just swap out for fallacious reasoning. So it would read something along the lines of fallacious means to base a claim on a mistaken belief. A fallacy is anything that intends to deceive. It is imperative that students are able to identify fallacious reasoning within in text. Examples of fallacious arguments include slippery slope fallacy, the red herring fallacy, and the ad hominem fallacy.
I would lose the words, it is imperative that. Just say students are able to clearly identify. It is imperative that they learn all these standards. We don't need to repeat that.
I really don't see the necessity of that sentence at all.
Yeah, I think, yeah, okay. So just eliminating the sentence.
Should we have something in there about like flawed logic or something? Something about this definition isn't feeling accurate to me. I haven't sat down and tried to write down a definition, but I feel like logic is, I don't know, I guess I usually hear logical fallacies.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It doesn't always like, I don't know if fallacious reasoning always implies intent, if it always to deception.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just a mistake.
Thinking.
What if you said fallacious means to base a claim on a mistaken belief or flaw in logic? A fallacy is anything that deceives or misleads.
I like it.
I don't know if I like the word anything there. Like anything makes it really broad, but maybe a fallacy intends. Or wait a minute.
A fallacy is a deceptive or misleading idea. Or line of reasoning if we're going to use AP Lang terms, which I don't know that we want to.
I mean, we are using fallacious reasoning, so I think that's the word we're defining. So a fallacy, what was the language again? I'm sorry, I lost it.
Sorry, I was on mute. A fallacy is a deceptive or misleading idea or a line of reasoning.
Okay, so Fallacious reasoning definition. Fallacious means to base a claim on a mistaken belief or flaw in logic. A fallacy is a deceptive or misleading idea. Examples of fallacious reasoning include slippery slope fallacy, the red herring fallacy, and the ad hominem fallacy.
I think I prefer the misleading line of reasoning. I feel like that might be a little bit more accurate.
Yep,
Mhm.
so
I like that.
a fallacy is a deceptive or misleading line of reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm good with that. Okay, is that good the way it sets now? All right, fallacious reasoning is in. And fallacious meaning is out. All right, any other words that need to be defined? Miss Nell, anything?
I'm looking, I haven't come across anything yet.
Okay, while we dance through this, let's proceed down through the glossary and see if any of those other things jump out at you. But let's go through and qualify all the rest of these as the way we like them. Okay. Where
Okay.
did we leave at? Dependent clause? Is that where we left off? I thought we got through the C's or.
I think it's around there. I wonder though, because I mean, I think that's going to be a really time intensive process to go word by word. I wonder if maybe just saying like spend the next, I don't know, 30 minutes, everybody going through and looking over proposed edits to the glossary, proposing edits to the glossary, and then we come together after that half hour and look at the proposed edits might be the best way of going about this. That way we could all kind of divide and conquer a little bit, and which I know we're not actually dividing and conquering. We'd come back and deliberate, but I wonder if that might be an effective use of our time.
I'd go with 20 minutes. Well, and that would put us at 6:47, and that would give us 45 minutes to conclude. Okay,
I agree with that.
let's
20
take 20 minutes.
That allows people just some time to check and see if there are any additional words to add. We have some words without definitions, so if anyone wants to take a stab at those, like we're looking at digital citizenship and digital tools. So if anyone wants to attempt a definition of some of those words without a definition, that would be beneficial. Just kind of do what you see needs to be done.
8 more minutes to examine. If everybody's ready, raise your hand. Saying no hands, take your 8 minutes. Three minutes to curtain. All right, we're back to collaboration. Did anybody note anything that needs to be changed in the glossary? Speak out.
Well, this is Ms. Winters. I put some things in the chat. So I gave you an idea for digital tools and digital citizenship. And I felt, and maybe correct me, I actually observed the word scaffolding. I saw it marked out. But from a special ed perspective, a lot of teachers don't have an understanding what differentiation means. So I did give a definition of that in the chat.
Appreciate your contributions. We have been looking at words in the glossary that are in the standards. And
Okay.
differentiation is very important strategy, but it's not in the standards. So we
in the standards.
right.
Okay. Thank you.
No, thank you. Annie? What have you?
Well, I went back through and was looking for some more things that might not have been, because during our previous break, I was looking at the electives primarily.
Mm-hmm.
So just things I don't know if we necessarily need to define them or not, but persuasive techniques, quantitative, stance, premise, rhetorical techniques. We do have rhetorics. I don't know if that's encompassing there. And then academic discussion. I think I just put a couple notes on current definitions. I didn't make it very far. I think my other thing is I still would definitely prefer that we weren't using AI for our definitions. I don't know if we ever came to a decision about that at our last meeting, or I might have not heard another discussion about that while I was in the car today. But
yeah, we did talk specifically about us crafting the words. We may beg, borrow, and steal particular words or phrases, but we're going to put it together the best way we can. So we're going to avoid any of that. That's been our stance at this point.
My understanding, yeah, that we would craft our own definitions, and therefore that would kind of circumvent the AI issue as well.
Miss Now?
I typed in some draft definitions for a few words. Digital citizenship, digital tools to start with.
Digital citizenship is in the standards.
Yes.
Okay. Let's take them one at a time. Digital citizenship.
Okay, I'm going to really quickly go through the standards and just verify that digital citizenship is there. I know that it was added because we had it in our parking garage to add that to the glossary. So I'm just gonna, yes. It is actually just in our electives. And if we're gonna have this just be a K through 12 glossary, I don't know if we even need digital citizenship, because it is only, as far as I can see, unless I'm missing something.
Thank you for your very well crafted definition, Lacey, but I think we can hold off on that for right now. What about digital tools?
We certainly use digital tools.
And Rosemary, was this yours?
I believe mine is in the chat, but I think the Lacey's in the typed into the.
Okay.
So I like hers. Digital tools are those technological tools approved for teachers by teachers and used by students in the classroom setting. Some examples might include confer with the committee here. And the one that I had, let's see, program and resources that support educational activities and learning processes. So I like hers because it's similar, but I like hers.
The technical reference to technological.
Right. And I had programs and resources that, where it say programs for me, I should have said, technological tools. So I like the word technological tools rather than programs and resources.
I put in confer with committee here because this was where I was, because we had those discussions when we did discuss digital tools as to whether we wanted to limit our um, our language or potentially limit our language, thinking about the future and what tools might come about in the future that we just can't anticipate right now. So I thought about including examples, and then I thought maybe we don't want to include examples so as not to limit ourselves. What does the committee think about that?
Yeah, I don't think we need to include examples. I think just keep it general because as everybody's saying, life's gonna look different 7 to 10 years from now. So
That's my instinct as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really like Lacey's. Digital tools are those technological tools approved by teachers and used by students in the classroom setting.
So let's just get rid of.
Some examples might include.
yeah. Everybody good with that?
I also just wanted to verify really fast that we're good to get rid of the definition of digital citizenship.
Yes.
Okay.
You're still searching for that you only found it in electives.
Yes, it only shows up in an elective, as far as I can tell. Yes.
Then it's out.
One thing I wanted to ask about was we had the term features in there, but when I was looking down through, we also have text features, which to my knowledge are the same thing. So we don't need features, I don't believe, if we have text features.
Let me do a quick scan to see what term we use in the actual standards themselves. Yeah, we use text features in the standards, so I think we're good to get rid of that definition of features if we.
I agree. So how would we say text features?
I think we've got it.
We've already.
It's already there.
Is there already there? Okay, good.
Okay.
One quick note on the co-pilot. I think we need to revisit author's purpose, if that's the decision that the committee wants to make.
Okay, how can we restate that and not have to give credit to co-pilot? All you wordsmiths out there.
All right, I'm going to start just verbalizing and just talking aloud. So how I usually explain it in my classroom is that it's usually it's a verb, it's an action, it's something the author wants you to do as a result of listening to the argument. So yes, it's the reason why the author writes a particular piece of text, but it is also the author's goal.
Yeah, I mean, my definition is pretty similar in my classroom. It's what an author wants their audience to do, think, or feel as a result of reading the text.
Can we just say that? That was very precise.
Sure.
Thank you, Annie, for keeping us honest. And out of Dutch.
All right.
Okay. Author's purpose is modified. Next,
I made an attempt at defining text, which I found to be a little fraught given that we've used a pretty expansive definition of text. So I would love to see what folks think. I'm not 100% sure I nailed it, so I just would like to know what people think. I defined it as a created work that can be analyzed and or interpreted. A text can be written, visual, or auditory. Since we're including like films and a verbal speech or a song as a text as well.
When I had drafted a definition on my own, I came up with something similar. I had said a written, observable, or spoken element that can be analyzed to determine its meaning. So essentially the same thing. I like yours.
Okay.
so do you want to propose any change to that, Ms. Now? About use of the word meaning?
I might propose that we add the language, a created work that can be analyzed and or interpreted to determine its meaning.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah.
I had taken a stab at thesis statement.
Okay, we're good with text, everybody? All right, text is in.
I like the definition you provided for thesis statement. I think we've been writing out 1 and 2, so I think if that's all right with you, I'm gonna go ahead and write those 2 out. But otherwise, I think that's a good definition.
And if you two think it's good, it's good. Let's keep it in.
My only thought, and I'm wondering, just there was a lot of conversation about us getting rid of claim as a thesis, like in the argumentative as the thesis essentially. I wonder if we should put any language in there about claims. Purpose of main claim in an essay. I'm not married to that idea. I'm just wondering if that might help bridge the gap a little bit for teachers who are used to the claim.
I hesitated to use the word claim because of the changes we made.
Okay.
So, and because we do have the word claim defined in the glossary already. And in that definition, we said to state or assert. So if we are in the thesis statement, writing that main assertion, I think I was trying to be intentional, yet broad, yet specific enough in that definition that it would offer clarity, but not be too restrictive. That was just my thinking process about it. Somebody else might have a different take.
And I can understand where, I see Lacey's name. What was the young lady, that mentioned before Lacey? What is her
Annie?
name? Annie. So, I can see where Annie is mentioned about claiming. That's introduced in middle school, 6th grade, whereas the K through 5th is not. And I like the way the claim is, inserted here already in the glossary. A state or assert something is true in essay writing, and that the thesis should remain 1 or 2 sentences earlier. So, yeah, I think claim should be in there, but claim is already in the glossary. That would really help our middle school teachers and middle school and up. But claim it's not introduced in K through 5th grade.
And you took out the last part of that in the standards. It could be used synonymously with thesis. That's not in there. Correct?
But thesis it should be in there, but I don't think we should use the word claim in the definition of thesis. And I like the way that Ms. Lacy revised the definition of claim, what we're looking at now on the screen.
Right, I just took it, that's been yellowed out, the last sentence. We're not gonna use that, right?
No, it will stop after supported by evidence.
Okay, very good. So we
Take out the
would,
word that to state or assert something is true.
are we good with that? Hearing no objections, claim is in.
As far as I can tell, the only words we currently have with no definition are formatting and there was another print. Formatting and print are the only two as currently written we don't have definitions for.
How are they used in the standards? That will help us craft a definition.
I know print was kind of fraught, I think, when we talked about foundational literacy. It's used often in the context of features of print, demonstrate understanding of the organization and basic features of print. I think it's essentially meaning like words written on a page, essentially. But I don't know. I also, this is anytime I step into the foundational literacy world, I get a little shaky because I get nervous that I'm going to say it wrong.
I'm
You
happy to
said that
look.
simply.
So there's print awareness and print concepts from the department. If at any point you want me to reach out to some folks, I'm happy to. Just let me know. Let me zoom in here. I don't know if that's the same as what we were thinking here. No.
I mean, we use the word print within the category print concepts pretty often. So I think they're slightly different, but I think they're interrelated. I also wonder if we need to add the definition of print concepts. We don't use print concepts within the actual language of the words in the standards, but we do have it as one of our categories of standards.
Yeah.
How would you define print concepts then?
I think, Ms. Summers, you said that the department had already defined print concepts. Okay, yes.
I can move this over into a comment for your.
Yeah, that would be great. I think adding that definition certainly wouldn't hurt.
We'll do it under print concepts or print awareness.
Or print.
We use print concepts in the actual standards. So
Okay.
I would think print concepts.
So be it. Let it be written.
Okay. Other thing I'll flag is it looks like we're using a colon, space, and then a lowercase letter, and then a period at the end. So if anyone catches those, that would be helpful.
I thought we were making a distinction, and tell me if I'm wrong here. If the definition was a complete sentence, we were capitalizing the first letter, and if it wasn't a complete sentence, we were not capitalizing the first letter.
That's totally fine with me.
I think that's what we were doing here.
That's helpful. And then with the periods regardless, right?
Yes, I believe that's what we had done thus far.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Move around that definition.
We're good with it. I hear no objections. Print concepts is in.
And do we feel like that adequately covers what was asked for print? The reason I'd included print was because we had an item in our parking garage that just said define print. So do we feel like that definition of print concepts covers that ground?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then I think all we have left without a definition at all is formatting. Don't know exactly what context we use the term formatting, but I can take a
We used it. Well, I know we used it when we discussed writing and research, formatting a research paper according to a particular style.
Okay.
Hey, having had that reference, then how would you define formatting, Lacey?
I was kind of playing with that when we reconvened here.
I'm looking at the standards and so like for writing, I'm seeing an instance of formatting here where it says utilize and incorporate feedback as needed to improve content formatting or style. Yeah, I mean, it seems to be the way one presents the content of one's writing.
Does this include like citations, like that kind of formatting?
So like if you look at, this is the longest standard code in the world, but E3, E4, W, R, B, P, K, 5. We have a substandard that reads format writing and cite sources using a style guide. And then we have a subsequent substandard that says utilize and incorporate feedback as necessary to improve content formatting or style. So I think
So
formatting is
I'm gonna organizing and presenting to.
What goes into formatting? What are students doing when they're formatting?
I mean, in our definition, so like I guess I go back to where we use it in the standards. In the standards, we say utilize and incorporate feedback as needed to improve content formatting or style. So by that definition, by that language, that makes me think formatting is discrete from content style. So it's not content, it's not style. It's, I guess, the intermediary between content and style.
Okay, I just typed in something. We can eliminate it completely. We can play with it. Just a starting point.
Okay, so it has to do with organizing and presenting content.
I think we have typically used formatting as a noun rather than as a verb. So maybe
the organization and presentation of.
Yeah, and since we have distinguished between formatting and style in the standards, I wonder if what comes after the semicolon might not be necessary here. Because I mean that is what I think of with formatting. I agree. I just wonder, since we've drawn a distinction in the standards. Unless we think style in the standards is signaling something else.
I think if we're going to eliminate it there, then I think we might need to define style in the glossary.
Okay.
Which might be more accurate, but for clarity's sake.
I agree. Putting style in there, yes.
I think I actually like what she has after the semicolon personally. And when we mentioned or you mentioned maybe not putting content, would text maybe work better than content there? Or maybe the foundational literacy term of print, which is any kind of, I guess, written word. It was my understanding.
I mean, I think you can format images as well. So I think I like.
I like content.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to me, formatting and style are kind of synonymous. Like those are kind of the same to me. I was just throwing that out there since in the standard we do mention those as separate things. But if we feel like the formatting and style should be kind of collapsed into the standard like this, I have no qualms with that at all.
When I think of style, I usually think, well, style guide, but then you have writing style.
Okay.
So I think we had to be, I don't know, particular about maybe separating those two out. If we were to do a style definition and style as standing alone without the word guide next to it.
Okay. I'm fine with just keeping the definition of formatting. Then that makes sense to me.
But Lacey talked about having style in there as a separate concept.
Yeah,
the glossary.
I think Miss Dockery had. I think if I'm correct here, Miss Now had said that if we were to eliminate the language after the semicolon, but I think we're deciding to keep that language now. And I think if I had understood correctly, Miss Dockery had kind of suggested that if we did come up with a definition of style, we'll need to be pretty intentional about dividing, because style can kind of have two alternative meanings. And so I think it might be for the best to just kind of keep style out within formatting here.
I would defer to your experience.
Yeah, I mean, I was the one who originally said that we should separate them, and now I'm saying we shouldn't. So I think
it sounds like you've duly considered it.
I have been persuaded by the very intelligent people in this committee.
Yes, we are very lucky for that. Well, what else do we got? We're running on the bewitching hour, boys and girls. We've got 17 minutes left.
Were any of the ones that I mentioned, did we think they were necessary to define? It was like one particular standard that listed several things that weren't in the glossary.
Name them again.
Stance, premise, rhetorical techniques. We also have the phrase academic discussion, so maybe we do academic conversation / discussion. There's quantitative, I don't know about that one so much, and then we have persuasive techniques. And then also the academic conversation is currently a co-pilot definition.
Have we used both conversation and discussion in the standards?
I didn't check conversation, but when I was looking through standards, I saw academic discussions.
I am doing a check for conversation at the moment, so I will let you guys know in a second.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm giving you all whiplash. Did we have something else related to techniques? Hold on.
Okay, we do use the phrase academic conversation, so yeah, I think we use both academic conversation and academic discussion.
Are they the same?
Certainly seem to be to me.
I would say so. I like the idea of putting a slash in there if we use them both.
Now we do need to rewrite this definition because it's a co-pilot definition.
Okay, Annie, you ready?
I'm terrible at writing definitions. I can try, but I think somebody's still gonna rewrite it.
Spitball.
I can also look in the whatchamacallit. That's where I'm at. Okay.
The standards guide.
Yes, thank you.
I would have to think the department has defined academic conversation or academic discussion. Maybe I'm wrong.
Collaborative conversations. Well, that's not quite a definition. I think that's more of an explanation, but defer to the committee. Oh, this is also kindergarten. Let's go up a couple grades, just as we're collecting our thoughts academically. Hold on. Let's start in 6th grade. Oh no.
Collaborative sharing of ideas.
Mm-hmm. No. Okay. Let me try 12th grade. I mean, excuse me, English 3, 4. Oh yeah, see this reads more to me as like examples, but I'm open to y'all's thoughts.
Yeah, I would agree.
Rip, sorry. Okay, Chair Cornelius, you were ideating.
collaborative sharing of ideas.
What about student-led discussions surrounding academic content characterized by collaboration and usage of academic vocabulary?
I love that.
Woo. I'm sorry.
I think Miss Now has a calling as a definition. I just wanted to jump in really fast. It's increasingly looking like, unfortunately, given the time, we're probably not finishing this tonight, since we have not gone through the parking garage at all. I think that opens up the possibility between now and whatever that next meeting might be for, like, for instance, I know Miss Dockery has some words that she thinks might need to be added. It gives us the rest of us some time to do similar work, and we could perhaps come in and have a relatively brief conversation about finalizing the glossary at that point. We do have a glossary that is complete now. Every word has a definition. But if Ms. Dockery or anyone else feels as though additional language needs to be included, they could come to our next meeting with that language ready. And we could perhaps make any quick decisions on finalizing glossary then immediately shift to parking garage.
But even if you don't have any ideas, we'll need to have everybody here to vote on passing the standards. So we got to have a quorum, kids.
Right.
How are we doing on Tuesday nights? Are we good? Now, Lacey, are you only available at 6?
That was just for tonight. I'm checking my calendar. Next Tuesday night, I am good.
Okay, because I was thinking we could start later. I only anticipate a couple hours and we'll be out of here. We're just kind of mopping it up. Now, Annie.
May I ask if there was anything that but since I came in late, if there was anything that was put in the parking garage that we decided to address later, before I came in, or anything like that needs to be?
We started to, then we extracted it.
Yeah, I think Miss Summers and I have kind of manned the parking garage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful servant, Miss Now. Okay.
Can you give us a run through? We got 10 minutes left. What's in the parking garage?
I don't think the parking garage will take too long. I think most of the things in the parking garage have largely been settled. I mean, there's quite a few glossary items, but I've been trying to introduce that language from the glossary as we've gone through. So I think most of that's already been covered. There were some moments where I think we've gone back through and wanted to relook at some of the wording a little bit of some standards. There were some moments where we kind of reached a conclusion, but people weren't entirely satisfied with our conclusions, or there were people who weren't loving what our conclusion had been, but we moved forward with a certain way of doing it. So I think it would just be a matter of looking back and saying, okay, are we content enough with how things are? I don't see especially substantive work on the parking garage.
Are there any additional items that you have that haven't been mentioned, Lacey, by Co-Chair Hilliard in the parking garage?
I don't believe so. I was looking for one thing while we were talking, but it is there. Nope, not to my knowledge at this time.
Okay.
I think it would just be a matter of us going item by item through the parking garage and just checking off the things that we feel have already done, or if we feel like they haven't been done, just taking a look at those things before checking them off.
Did we
Okay.
put, there was, I believe a man who wrote in something about foundational literacy. Was that public feedback? Like discussing that put in the parking garage?
So it only needs to be discussed, or only needs to be in the parking garage if you'd like to discuss it. You certainly don't have to discuss it. So it would just be a matter of Ms. Dockery, if you'd like to talk about it, we'd add it to the parking garage. And that's true for any of our submitted feedback.
Okay. Well, I don't really know much about foundational literacy, so I remember reading it and not being totally sure of what I thought. So, in my opinion, I think it might be worth visiting and seeing if he has a solid argument for his changes.
We should have some folks from the state board then who are up on foundational literacy available if we're going to discuss that, Brianna.
Yes, I can speak to the sort of rationale behind the feedback. My understanding of it is that they believe that pronouns should be, this is a fun one for 7:22 p.m. Central Time. They want more clarity on pronoun usage related to gender and gender identity in the standards.
What's that got to do with the literacy standards? I'm sorry.
That's I think there are some references to the word pronoun, and it's just a matter of whether this committee would like to take up adding more specificity in the standards related to pronouns. If I remember the feedback, there's some additional language around like pronouns have like gender, nominative, something, something, something. Ms. Dockery, if you'd like to discuss, then it could be helpful for members to review that, or I'm happy to reread it on the record since it's definitely been a hot minute.
Okay. So let's talk about 6 hours then. No,
6 hours.
never mind. I'm saying that could be a lengthy discussion, but we
Oh,
could
yes.
probably,
Yes, that one specifically.
I'm saying we might get by on 2 hours the next meeting. And it's just, we don't really have much more to do on the glossary. No need to beat it to death. I mean, we've searched and researched it. We find something else in between now and the time we meet. Let's discuss it.
Yeah, I personally, and I don't mean to intervene or interrupt, but I think it would make sense to me to have the expectation is if you wish to add to the glossary, please be prepared to propose that as soon as we start meeting on our next meeting date. That way we don't have to really have lengthy iterative conversations about the glossary. It's just a matter of between now and then propose or compile any language or compose any language you might want to add and propose it as soon as we come together.
Rosemary, you proposed meeting on a different date or a different time?
I'm just throwing it out there. Is anyone available any other day, like Wednesday, Thursday, rather than Tuesday? I know Mondays are off. I'm just asking.
No, it's a good flag, Ms. Winters, because I think we've got a couple reoccurring conflicts on Tuesday, so we can always try and circle back. Hold on. I am good. I could not do Monday, but I could do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I could probably make work. Does Wednesday work better for folks? What conflicts do we have at 3:30 Central Wednesday? No, of course, Dr. Stout and Ms. Gautier, you're not here. I feel like Dr. Stout had something on Wednesdays as well. Is that when she preaches? Of course, we would still have a quorum. I'm just trying to recall.
I'm open on Wednesday.
Ms. Winters, does Wednesday work better for you?
Yes.
Okay.
About
Lacey, you're
everyone
good?
else, though, I want to make sure. Annie,
Yeah, just need to check about childcare, because that really didn't go well when I had my child the whole time. Just not a good situation. But I can check on that. But I'll be in the same boat. Unfortunately, I have an insane drive to and from work every day, so I'll be in the same boat just every day now that I'm back to work. So I can call in again. The meeting will have to be opened up early for me and all that.
That worries, I will say that worries me just a bit because I think this conversation about the glossary, I think you might have some additions to make to the glossary, and I worry about you not being fully able to participate at that beginning moment when I think your contributions would be useful.
We could start the meeting at 5, have no supper break.
That's fine with me. I would just ask, how confident are we that we can end at 7:30? If we feel very confident that we can end it, I would just hate to do 2 half meetings. You know what I mean? 'Cause then that's asking more of y'all to show up and leave, and asking the state board team. How confident are we that we can get everything done from 5 to 7:30 Central?
Annie, you're shaking your head. I was
I
going
have-
to say I was very confident.
I have no confidence in this team's speed.
Um,
Diligence, yes, but not speed.
Miss Dockery, do you think there's a possibility you could, if you do have additions that you would like to offer to the glossary, do you think you could add them between now and our next meeting, and then we could deliberate on the contributions you've made at the start of the meeting, even if you are not able to immediately jump in and speak in those moments?
Yeah. So should I put that in the document or email it to Miss Summers? Like, what's the protocol there?
I think our general counsel would request the latter. Let's also
Okay.
are there, oh no, because this is your commute, so that'd be every day. Never mind. Okay. So there were no conflicts on Wednesday other than Miss Dockery. Did I understand that right? Other than, of course, Miss
Right.
Singletary.
And Ms. Dockery may be able to get somebody to do for childcare, right? Yeah.
Hopefully, I'll
That's
just have
the
to
one.
check in. It might be another thing where I have him for an hour or two, and hopefully he doesn't scream too much, and then
Oh, that'd be fine. Yeah. We're
Okay.
we're with a very understanding group here.
I'll bring mine if you bring yours.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know what?
I said I'll bring mine if you bring yours.
Oh yeah, I just have 2 screaming babies at the same time. It'll be great.
I can start screaming too. I don't have a baby.
I have a 17-year-old. He could, scream really loud.
Yeah.
All right, so we're good for next Wednesday at 3:30 p.m.
Yes, I will confirm with colleagues, but good news, even if Miss Singletary and Dr. Stout would still be sitting at an okay quorum with the 5.
All right, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. So I would declare this meeting adjourned and see you again next week. Thank you all.
I know.